Cynthia Aseltine and her daughter, 19-year-old Danielle Ireland, are suing Cynthia's former landlord, Sidney Neese, for the return of a security deposit, moving expenses, and damages from an assault.
All rise.
Now it's case number 40 on the calendar in the matter of Aseltine Ireland versus Neese. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
Who is Miss Ireland?
I'm Miss Ireland.
Aselton?
Aseltine is my mother.
Miss Aseltine, according to your complaint, you, not your daughter, but you, rented a room from the defendant.
Yes, ma'am.
And you found that room on something on the internet called Craigslist?
Yes, ma'am.
And signed a month-to-month lease.
I did.
When did you sign that?
March 1st, 2007.
Where had you been living before that?
I was residing in an apartment which I shared with my daughter, and she decided to move out on her own and get her own apartment. So I thought it would be good for me to move into a place where I could save a little money, maybe meet some new people, until I was able to purchase my own home.
How long had you been renting rooms?
I've been renting rooms for about 4 years.
What kind of property do you have?
I have a home in Elk Grove, California.
How many bedrooms?
5 bedrooms.
How many tenants do you have?
Currently 1.
How many tenants did you have when you had Miss Aseltine?
Just myself and Cindy.
And it was a month-to-month tenancy?
It was.
It is your claim that Miss Neese terminated your tenancy without proper notice, and you want moving expenses, your security deposit back, and you want damages because she, you claim, assaulted both you and your daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Neese says that you are not entitled to your security deposit back because you promised that you were going to stay through April, and you didn't. It is her claim that you actually assaulted her. So let's find out when the trouble began. You moved in March 1st.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
About approximately a week after I moved in, I noticed some strange behavior from Miss Neese. When I was in the home alone, and especially when I had company over, I would notice some outbursts. Seems she was talking to herself, kind of laughing out loud. She'd walk through the home when I'd have company over and bang anything that would make noise, opening and closing compulsively the garage door. The washer was close to my room, so she'd slam the washer door up and down.
Got it. Let's move on.
Okay. And I became just really uncomfortable in the home. I'd find myself, I'd sign up for overtime, I'd go to the gym, anything to avoid coming home because her behavior was really disturbing and uncomfortable. And so I noticed that it became more obvious when I had company over, so I decided to talk to her about it. So maybe I was doing something wrong. And so I came home, and so I knocked on her door. She didn't answer, so that's when I called her cell phone, and I found that she was actually at home in her room. And she came out, and I had a conversation with her, and I said, is there something bothering you, lately? Because I've noticed that you've been slamming things around, banging things. And her response was, bang? I don't bang. I don't bang anything. I said, oh, okay, well, apparently, when my boyfriend's over, does he make you uncomfortable? No, I don't have a problem with your boyfriend. And I said, well, one night he spent the night here, and it seemed that you were really uncomfortable with that, and that's when I noticed the most noise. She goes, well, I didn't even know he spent the night. And she goes, well, it's in your lease agreement that you can't have any overnight guests. I said, well, I didn't notice that in my lease agreement. I apologize.
Was it in your lease agreement?
It was, ma'am, in my lease agreement.
Okay.
And I said, I respect that. And I said, well, that's something that I'm not sure if I can live with. I apologize. I overlooked that. And I said, if you feel real strong about that, then I think I might have to make a decision to move out. And I would go ahead and give you a proper 30-day notice. And she goes, okay, well, that's fine.
Fine. What day was that? That was in
Okay,
March?
that was, yes, the 19th of March. I sent her a copy, certified mail, which she...
May I see it, please?
Absolutely. That was sent regular mail as well as certified mail, which I have a receipt there. Ms. Neese
Okay.
never picked up the certified copy.
Okay, and you received this letter terminating
Yes.
her tenancy?
Yes, I have
Fine.
it right here.
Good. So what happened?
Okay,
What was
so
next?
things were a little still uncomfortable in the house, so I decided to avoid her as much as possible. About a week after giving that notice to her, I came home and found that she was interviewing another tenant, which I gave her the privacy. I had went and cleaned up and got ready to go back out again.
I haven't
She
even
then,
interviewed.
You have a turn.
Okay.
Right now, plaintiff is talking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
after I had finished and cleaned up and the person had left, she had come and spoke with me and said, okay, well, when are you going to be moving your furniture out? I understand, I received your 30-day notice. And I go, well, I can start putting it in storage soon if you really need the space, because she was saying that she wanted to offer that space to the tenant. She goes, well, that's your right to keep it there for the remainder of the month. And, things seemed to be okay then, but she's still exhibiting some behaviors that I just didn't feel that
I understand. You were moving out for a reason. Keep going.
Absolutely. And so I had received a phone call on March 31st. I was at the gym, and I received a message from Miss Niece. And on the message, she says that she's demanding that she have a face-to-face meeting with me and discuss the 30-day notice agreement and finalize me moving out. And so I was kind of, you know, I didn't understand.
Just tell me what happened.
Okay, so I called her up, and I said, I got your message. What's the deal with me having to come over? And she goes, well, I want you to speak to me face to face. I gave you the same respect when you gave me your 30-day notice. And I said, well, I really don't want to have any confrontation with you. You're making me feel really uncomfortable and threatened. She goes, well, if you do not come home right now, I'm going to lock you out. And I said, you can't lock me out. And she goes, I'm telling you, if you don't come home right now, I'm going to lock you out. At that point, she disconnected the phone call. Me and my boyfriend were at the gym. I said, come on with me. She's threatening to lock me out. I need to go home. When we got there, me and my boyfriend entered the home, and Miss Niece was in the kitchen. She had already taken all my groceries out of the fridge and out of the cupboard and had set them up on the counter as if she was moving me out. I said, what are you doing? Please put my things back. You can't move me out. What's the problem? And at that point, she came around the counter of the kitchen with her finger in my face, and she goes, girl, you better shut your mouth, because in the name of Jesus, I'm going to smack the devil out of you. At that point, my boyfriend placed his body in between us because she was this close in my face, and he's that face to me, and he's like trying to block her. And she turned around, and she swung about backside of him and hit me upside the head. At that point, I grabbed my cell phone. She grabbed her cell phone. I called the police. She called 911. The police arrived, a female police officer. Police officer went and spoke to Miss Niece. Miss Niece had stated that she was going to be locking me out of the house, and the officer had stated, legally, ma'am, you cannot lock her out of the house. And she goes, don't you tell me how to run my household.
Can I see the police report, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She comes up behind me and then kind of hits me. And then Miss Niece turned around to my mom, and she goes to make a fist like she was going to strike my mom, and I grabbed her arm and I put it down and I said, don't touch my mom.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Cynthia Aseltine and daughter Danielle Ireland claim Cynthia's former landlord, Sidney Niece, is guilty of an assault. Sidney claims it was the plaintiffs who assaulted her.
Now, when did the incident happen with your daughter?
Same day.
Same day?
It was a little bit later on that day when I had came. The police officers had actually left at a certain point, and my mother had called my boyfriend and I to show up. She had to go and get a U-Haul to get all of her things, and we both ended up showing up at the exact same time as my mom with the U-Haul, and that's when I arrived.
And what happened with Miss Niece?
Well, we came into the house, and she was in her bedroom, had shut the door, was in her bedroom, like the police officer told her to stay in the room. I went into this little front area that was right next to her bedroom door and started to grab furniture. And I grabbed this big glass top that was to one of my mom's coffee tables, and I started going out. And then Miss Niece came out of her room and was really mad and angry, and was directing a lot of anger at myself and at Ryan, saying that he didn't have any right to be in the house, and that was saying something about how we couldn't go through the garage door. She was telling us we had to go through the front door for some reason, and I was standing on my way to the garage door. She was really like livid and saying that we couldn't be in our house, that we had no right to be in there, and then she comes up behind me and grabs me by the back of my neck and like kind of pushes me and then kind of hits me. And then Miss Niece turned around to my mom and starts getting in her face, and she's throwing her hands wildly and stuff, and then she goes to make a fist like she was going to strike my mom, and I grabbed her arm and I put it down and I said, don't touch my mom. And then it just turned into a scuffle where she was just being really wild.
Okay, Miss Niece,
Yes.
I would like you first to tell me your version of the events of the 31st of March.
Okay, Saturday, March 31st, I initiated a call to Cindy to finalize things in the matter. She had sent me a letter March 20th indicating that she was going to move out at the end of April. And so I wanted to finalize things as far as obtaining the rent for April.
She already told you that she was going to give you the rent April 3rd in the letter.
Right. In my lease, it indicates, in the initial agreement that we signed, it indicates that if any rent is not paid time or in full, that they will forfeit the security. That's in item number 2 in our
What
lease.
difference does that make? She already said, I'll pay you your rent on April 3rd. It's in her letter that she sent to you.
Because I just like to do things decently and in order, so...
This is decently and in order. You called her on her cell phone.
I called her on Saturday and asked, because she had initiated an appointment in mid-March. She wanted to see if her boyfriend could stay overnight, and she knocked on my door. Actually, I was napping, and she knocked on my door until...
Shh, don't interrupt her. I'm just asking you what you told her on March 31st. You called her, she's at the gym.
On March 31st, I asked her if she had any time in the afternoon. I said I'd appreciate if we could finalize things and, you know, get the rent. So then she started cursing at me, and she started getting really violent on the phone and calling me up.
Did you tell her she had to come home or else you were going to change the locks?
No, absolutely
not. Did you take her food out of the refrigerator? I'm speaking.
No, I didn't actually.
Did you take her food out of the refrigerator and place it on the counter?
No, not.
Did you tell the police when they arrived that you were planning on changing the locks and locking her out?
When she started cursing at me on the phone, because she, by the way, she's been pretty violent before, so when she came home from the gym, she came home and she kicked me, which I have a photo of the bruise on my leg from when she kicked me then. At that point, I had called the police, and because I had wanted to have her arrested. So when they came over, they kind of separated us, got both versions of what had happened. And so I didn't have her arrested at that point.
The police found you very agitated, Ms. Neese. According to all 3 police officers who arrived at the scene...
Well, she assaulted me. I have pictures. She admitted biting me on the arm.
There was an altercation. There's no question there was an altercation.
Well, I actually didn't touch her or her daughter. Both of them came home. She called her daughter, and they both came in, and then they assaulted me in my room. And that's why I had called the police a second time. When I was on the phone with the police, I was terrified. They said, "Where are you?" I said, "I locked myself in my room because I was afraid they were going to come in again." I have pictures of the door and from when they tried to barge in my door, and I have pictures of all the bruises. They hit me.
What do you do for a living, Ms. Neese?
I'm an insurance broker.
For a company?
For myself. I have my own agency, and I'm going to school for court reporting.
So you operate out of your home or out of an office?
I'm usually on the road, but my office is out of my home, yes.
So you don't have an office other than at your home?
Correct.
And how long have you been doing that?
5 years.
You make a living at that?
Yes.
The last time you had a tenant prior to the plaintiff, what was that tenant's name?
Prior to Cynthia? She was the first tenant in that home.
So you'd never had a tenant?
Not in this home. When I was in the Bay Area, I've had tenants. She was the first tenant in this home.
Judge, I have some information regarding the tenants in the Bay Area. San Mateo County Courts, there's 3 claims regarding Ms. Neese in regards to tenant-landlord. 2 times she was a defendant, and 1 she was a plaintiff regarding the same situation, withholding deposits.
Can I see
and so
that?
forth. Actually, I didn't print it out, but if you go to San Mateo County Courts, it is public record.
You had 3 landlord and tenant actions while you were there, 1 as a plaintiff and 1 as a defendant?
I'm not sure what she's referring to, but it was just probably a lack of, my income. But with regard to this...
I'm not talking about... I'm asking you whether you had 3 previous landlord and tenant actions.
I think there was 1, and it was just because I was having problems, with cash flow, but they have since been paid back.
One was that she put a stop pay on a deposit as a tenant herself.
That sound familiar?
I'm not sure what she's referring to, but I would appreciate if we could talk about this case today and why, I don't believe that I owe her the security deposit.
You absolutely owe her the security deposit. There's no question that you owe her the security deposit.
Okay.
You told her to leave. I've read the police report. You said you wanted her out that day. She left. She did not stay the month of April, despite the fact that she said she was planning on paying April's rent. You absolutely owe her the security deposit. There's no question about that.
Well, because she assaulted me, and I had to put out expense. She didn't return the key when she moved out.
I believe that this was an unfortunate circumstance, that everybody's tempers got very flared up.
Actually,
on that.
mine did not.
Well, not according to the
Ms.
Neese. According to the police, the only person...
I was assaulted by her and her daughter,
Neese,
and her boyfriend had to pull them off of me.
And the police department...
When
I'm speaking. When I'm speaking, don't speak.
Okay.
Clearly, not only did you claim that they were assaultive, you
I
also...
have photographs of all the
I'm
assaults.
speaking. Do you hear me speaking? You also claim conspiratorial behavior on the part of the police. You weren't satisfied with the police officer who came. You demanded their supervisor. 2 supervisors arrived. They couldn't calm you down. You demanded their supervisor. So everybody is in a conspiracy against you. There's something not right, Ms. Neese. All of that is clearly contained in the police report. I assume you have a copy of it.
The copy that I obtained from them does not contain that information. That's not what they had given me. They
May not be what they gave you, but that's what I have.
Okay, can I show you the pictures of my bruise?
Absolutely.
And actually, I still have them on my body.
Absolutely. Show me.
This is a picture of when she bit me in the arm.
She absolutely acknowledges that she
And
bit you in
then,
the arm And she
a
says she bit
bruise
you.
on my
I'm
breast.
speaking. Don't you want to hear me speaking? She absolutely acknowledges that she bit you in the arm so that you would let her go.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Okay, can I tell my version of the story, ma'am?
When I
Yes,
contacted
do.
the police
Up,
department.
up, don't.
What had transpired, basically, the whole issue, when she first, in the initial ad, I indicated no alcohol, no overnight guests, and she breached both of those. She was drinking a lot while she was there, and she was having overnight guests, her boyfriend. And I never even said anything because I didn't want to get into any confrontation. But then she mentioned, she talked to me that one day, and I said, no overnight guests. Are you okay with that?
So she gave you
said,
notice.
yes.
Listen, I got it. I have other things to do today. She said, I'm moving. She sent you an appropriate notice that she's moving. Move on with it. Get to the 31st.
Right, but then she didn't pay the rent, and so I wanted
No. She has no obligation to pay the rent on March 31st. None. And if you demanded that she come home from the gym...
I didn't demand that she came home. I called her on the cell phone, and I said, do you have any time this afternoon? What's your availability?
I don't think you should have roommates. I don't think you should rent rooms to anybody. I don't. I think that you are a very, very nice lady who clearly should live alone, not with anybody else, because you can't make rules for adults. I mean, she's an adult lady. She's not a teenager. You didn't rent to a teenager. And if you don't like other people living in your house because other people aren't going to do things the way you do...
Well, it's not that I want to do things the way I want to do. But when I rented
a room.
They said no overnight guests. When
Absolutely
I rented, they
right.
set their
And she said I didn't...
And I honored them. So if she didn't want to...
Do you take medication? Do you take medication?
No, ma'am.
You should. Because I've already told you 4 times, this is the 4th time, that when I start to speak, you have to stop.
Okay.
You can't. There's something that's not working right. You owe her security deposit, which was how much?
It was $500.
Did either of you seek any medical treatment for your injuries?
No,
Yes, I did.
I'm not talking about you. Now, where did you move when you moved?
I was actually homeless for 8 days. I was allowed to stay at my boyfriend is roommate with another roommate, and he was out of town.
That's fine. Don't make up things as we go along. You weren't homeless because you were able to sleep someplace.
Well, yes. I mean, I was without a permanent...
Fine, and then you found someplace.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Whole thing is very, very unfortunate. Really, very unfortunate. You want to say anything to me? No. You want your security deposit back?
Absolutely.
You got it. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $500. Your counterclaim's dismissed. That's all.
Why does that excuse you may step out?
Crystal Padilla is suing her ex-husband, James Kern, for attorney fees after he falsely accused her of child abuse.
All rise. Now, that's case number 73 on the calendar in the matter of Padilla versus Kern.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ladies, have a seat, please.
Ms. Padilla, this is your ex-husband. You've been divorced since when?
Our divorce was finalized in November of 2004.
And you have one child together?
Yes.
How old is that child?
He's now 5.
I'd like you to keep your voice up, Ms. Padilla, because I have difficulty hearing you. Not because there's anything terribly wrong with my hearing, but I know that you may be a little nervous. You're speaking softly. You have to speak up like me.
No problem.
Great. Make believe you're yelling at him.
Shouldn't be a problem.
Your lawsuit alleges that Mr. Kern filed false allegations against you with Child Protective Services, forcing you to hire an attorney. You want your attorney's fees back and the expenses that you incurred as a result of defending that litigation. Mr. Kern says he had legitimate concerns over his child, and that's why he made the report. Okay? Do you have other children?
1.
How old?
Same age. A little older by a few months.
Who does that child live with?
Her. I didn't know of his existence till long after he was born. It's quite a story.
Well, it's quite a story, but it has an age-old beginning.
They're 6 weeks apart.
Another 10.
And I assume you've done the appropriate DNA testing and everything else? Paternity testing?
Correct.
So that while you were married, you fathered another child. Is that right?
No, it was before I was married. Before her and I got married, her and I were together. She told me she had an abortion, so we never talked again. Me and her got back together. And then after, actually the day my son Cameron was born, I get another phone call from her saying, oh, guess what?
Do you see that child?
No.
So that there are no other siblings in your house?
No.
How many children do you have?
I have 2.
How old are they?
They're 7 and 5.
The 7-year-old is not Mr. Kern's child?
No.
When did you and Mr. Kern separate?
In November of 2002.
So the baby was an infant at the time?
Yes, he was.
Was there any issue as far as custody at that time?
At that time, Mr. Kern left, and Cameron did stay with me. And when we did our divorce papers, we decided to do 50-50 custody. And up until this recent event, we did share 50-50 custody.
When you say 50-50 custody, how did that break down in the week?
We would alternate weeks. 1 week I would have 3 days, he would have 4. The next week I would have 4 days, he would have 3.
So that really required that you live in close proximity to each other.
At the time, I was in Riverside, California, and he was up in Apple Valley, so about an hour away.
So, Mr. Kern, you had your son half the time.
Correct.
But you, I assume, always knew that there would come a time when he went to school and you couldn't have that kind of an arrangement because you can't live an hour away from each other and still do that.
Correct. I offered to put him in private school, and she didn't want that. She lives in Colton.
Just a second. You offered to put him in private school near you.
Correct.
Well, she didn't want him to be in a private school near you. Shh, Mr. Kern, because that would mean that she would lose her 50% of the custody time. Sure it would, because if he's in private school near you, of necessity, he has to spend 5 days a week at your house. In any event, she said, no, I want to put him in school where I am, right?
Correct.
She wanted the child to go to school in her location, you wanted the child to go to school in your location, and then the trouble began. So, Mr. Kern, why don't you tell me the timeline from there? She brought papers to you to ask you to sign off so that you could register the child in school.
Yeah, and that if I didn't agree, she wouldn't let me have my son. She was going to leave in the parking lot right then and there. Actually, it started long before that. My son had lots of marks and bruises on him that were questionable. And every time I'd ask her, you know, how did this happen? It was always the same story. Oh, he got it playing with his brother, or he got it fighting with his brother. One February day, she called me, said, hey, you know, he had a bit of an accident. I don't know if I'm going to take him to the hospital or not. I'm just letting you know. I said, okay, do I need to come down there? You know, I'll take him myself. She said, no. He showed up that weekend, and I have pictures right here. He has a complete black eye. He has a gash in his eye.
I'd like to see it.
And these are some other pictures of bruises and marks on him from when he's come from her house. Hand marks, bruise on his shoulder, other marks on his face from different times. And I took those pictures to my attorney, asked them what they think I should do, and that's when I took that to the court.
I wouldn't say a word if I were you. You are no relation to this case.
That's my wife.
I understand exactly who it is, sir. I understand exactly who it is, and if you want the situation with your son to ultimately resolve itself, I would suggest that she let you do the talking. That's the problem. Well, see, black and blue marks on his arms.
I also have a video that I think you need to see that's important in this case.
Oh, this is his leg.
This is just one of 100 times of how he acts when he goes back to his mother. And I think it's very important that you see this video right here.
Sure.
And after my attorney told me, you know, after I took that to court for next court.
Don't tell me what your attorney told you, sir. What your attorney told you was hearsay.
All right, here we go, guys.
Cameron, come on, baby. Hey, the sooner you go with your mommy, the sooner I get to come get you and we can do Christmas. Come on, honey. Cameron. Come on, it's time to go with your mommy, honey. Don't do that. Come on. Mommy misses you and she wants to see you. Okay, baby? Come on.
I've seen enough. Turn it off, please.
That's not even the good part. The part where he throws himself on the ground, and I asked, you know, let me talk to him to calm him down. She won't let me. He's banging on the window in her car, you know, screaming for me, and takes off.
I don't understand why you're photographing this.
Well, actually, that was upon her request in the court. She wanted to videotape pickups or drop-offs, so if somebody said something they shouldn't, they could take it to court.
That was at her request? Is that right?
No, it wasn't.
Yeah, I have it on the minutes.
I'd like to see it. It's a major concern to me to videotape a child like that, who was clearly as young as he is, playing for the camera. Well, this just says the parties stipulate that the visitation exchanges may be videotaped and audiotaped.
Yeah, she did that because she accused me of bad-mouthing her when I pick up or drop off my son. So the judge said that we can videotape or audiotape the pickup or drop-offs. And they...
Just a second. Then she didn't ask for it. She accused you,
and we went to court.
Mr. Kern,
said,
listen to me. I'm really big on two parents getting involved and being integral parts of their children's lives, fathers and mothers. I think it's really important. And I don't know which one of you is a better custodial parent. I really don't know. Sounds to me as if you adore him.
It's my life.
And it sounds to me, based upon the answer that you submitted to me, that you legitimately feel that you are a more fit custodial parent. Maybe, but I'm telling you what I'm seeing. The injuries that you've shown me here are nothing compared to what my kids had when they were growing up.
But if your kid came home with
Broken
those on his
arms,
face or something,
broken
would you not be
arms,
concerned?
jumping off the beds with their siblings, banging heads, getting hit in the face with a lacrosse stick. All kinds of things happen to children, especially children who have a close in age sibling.
But then where's the supervision?
Excuse me?
If something like that happens to his face because he was fighting with his brother, where was the supervision?
Can't supervise children all the time, Mr. Kern. What planet are you living on, sir?
This one. These things don't happen at my house. I have 2 full-grown German Shepherds. He has his own bike. He has everything in the world a kid could ever want.
Mr. Kern,
and these things don't happen in my home.
Mr. Kern, what you don't have in your house is another child.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And nowhere in that report does he say, my mommy hits me, my mommy beats me.
No, but it does talk about domestic violence, about how her boyfriend hits her and she hit him back. And that's from what he's seen.
Crystal Padilla claims the father of her child, James Kern, falsely accused her of abuse to Child Protective Services. She is suing for her attorney fees.
The only issue in this case, as far as I'm concerned, is do these pictures of marks on the child give him sufficient reason for him to have placed a call to Child Protective Services to investigate?
I never called Child Protective Services. I just filed an ex parte hearing saying, for my concerns about those marks. I never called CPS not once.
Just a second. So you filed a proceeding, an ex parte proceeding, for what?
To get custody of my son so we could find out what was going on. I have letters here from a psychotherapist.
Just a second. So you had 50-50 custody, and based upon these photographs, you went to court through your attorney and filed an ex parte order seeking physical custody full-time of your child based upon these photographs.
And letters from a psychotherapist that interviewed my son to find out where the marks were coming from, which I have these right here as well.
So while the child was with you, in addition to taking these photographs, you took him to a psychologist.
Yeah, upon my attorney's advice.
Listen, Mr. Kern, I was there for 25 years. I know exactly what's going on, sir. I know precisely what's going on. Now, when did you file your ex parte proceeding, sir?
End of April '06.
And when did Miss Padilla tell you that she wasn't going to allow you to enroll the child in private school in your area?
She served me on my first wedding anniversary, which was March 12th, '06, and that's where the court papers
Just a second.
began.
So in March of '06, Miss Padilla served you with papers seeking what?
That she wanted him to go to school in her area, which is Colton.
So she served you with papers in March of '06. And in April of '06, you saw an attorney, brought photographs, and at that point filed your own ex parte order for an immediate transfer of custody based upon allegations of abuse. Is that right?
According, yes.
I'm getting the timeline here.
Upon my attorney's advice.
That wasn't his first response to my petition. His original response noted nothing of physical abuse.
Okay. Then he took these pictures that he had been saving up and storing up since December of 2005.
That's not true. On my
attorney.
first response, noted a lot of things. The fact that she lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with her sister and her 2 children, with her other son and my son. My son coming to my house telling me he sleeps on the couch with his brother while she sleeps in her room with her boyfriend.
Mr. Kern, how much support do you pay for that child support?
Which one?
That lady's child.
$250.
$250 or what?
A month.
Pay it every month?
Nope.
So you don't pay child support?
Not every month. Sometimes I get behind on bills and stuff. I can't make the payment.
He hasn't paid in over 3 years.
Yes, I have.
I'm getting there. And how much child support do you pay now for this child?
I believe it was $400 a month if she took him to school. I let my employer have the information, and I don't think they've started that yet.
So how much do you pay her?
$400 a month or something like that. I don't quite
$400.
recall.
Well, the employer hasn't started deducting it from your salary yet, so how much do you give her every month?
Nothing.
Why?
Because if I give it to her, she'll never report it.
But in between the time that the child support order takes place, sir, and they start with the income deduction order, months could go by before that happens. So how do you expect your child to be supported? Okay, so now you have 2 children, and if I am correct, from what you tell me, Mr. Kern, who you want me to believe you're father of the year, you have 2 children for whom
I'm not father
you are
of the year.
currently paying 0 child support. And this from a man who said, I want to put my son in private school near me.
I had 50% custody at the time.
No,
Actually, I had
listen to
more.
me. Listen to me. This is from a man who said, I want to pay for private school. And now you tell me that you have 2 children, 5 years old, for whom you are currently paying nothing in child support.
That's not every month. Just because she hasn't received hers yet, that's the child support agency, not my fault. I'm not going to give it to her and have her deny it.
You got where we're going? He thinks he's a step ahead of me. I was there for 25 years, Mr. Kern. I know exactly what's going on. Exactly. Well, let's finish the scenario. You went to court. You had a lawyer. Did you have a lawyer?
On the Monday, I went to...
Just answer my question. Did you have a lawyer?
On our next court date, we did.
And the child's custody was immediately transferred to the father.
For
Is
the
that
month
right?
pending.
Just answer my question.
Yes.
For how long did Mr. Kern have custody?
Until May 17th of 2006.
And then what happened?
That was our original court date, and we went to mediation.
When you went back to mediation, was a forensic expert assigned to the case?
No.
We were assigned to do a 7:30 evaluation.
And what was the name of the therapist who was doing the evaluation?
Dr. Michael.
You have a copy of that report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. So as a result, I assume, at least in part of the forensic evaluation, the court determined that the custody arrangement that you originally agreed to was not workable.
Correct.
Is that right? And ultimately, primary physical custody was ordered to you.
Yes, it was.
And the court granted you visitation 3 weekends a month. Is that right?
Big drop from having them half the time, huh?
Absolutely right, sir. You're supposed to be smart enough to know that whatever custody arrangement you make when a child is 2 is not going to be able to hold true when the child is 6 or 8 or 10 or 12. And you're supposed to be able to work with each other. And just because you got angry that she wasn't going to allow you to have your way...
How's that right? These pictures started being taken in December, beginning of December, when she filed in March. So how is it I got mad and all of a sudden, magically appeared some pictures in December? These are concerns I've had for a while.
Either that, sir, or you don't understand what it's like to be a 5-year-old with a 7-year-old sibling, with a black and blue mark on the knee, with a scratch above the eye, with a black and blue mark on the hand, with scrapes across the face. Happens. It happens. And nothing that I read in this report suggested, absolutely nothing, that your child complained that any of those marks were as a result of his mother's actions.
I have some other letters here that you should read then.
Absolutely.
There is also a section about her in the 7:30 evaluation, the psychotherapist that wrote the letters that he is showing you now. And nowhere in that report does he say, my mommy hits me, my mommy beats me.
No, but it does talk about domestic violence, about how her boyfriend hits her and she hit him back.
Listen,
and that's from what he's seen.
The problem, Mr. Kern, is that you really are going to have to back off in interfering with what goes on in her house.
If your child sees domestic violence, should I not be concerned?
What I'm telling you is you have to back off as to what goes on in her house. You're not supposed to ask your son anything about what goes on in her house.
The therapist asked him that.
I didn't say the therapist. I said you're not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in his house. And she's not supposed to ask him anything about what goes on in your house. You're both supposed to assume that each of you love him and want to take care of him and want to protect him and do the right thing. That's what you're supposed to assume. And you, Mr. Kern, are supposed to pay child support for that child, for this child, who you now don't have in your custody. I mean, I read the report, and the report indicated that when this forensic evaluation was done, your son says you don't work, and you're home all the time.
No, I'm a contractor, so I choose my own hours.
That's what he says. He says, my father doesn't
work. Well, I
work.
make sure I'm home when he's there.
I'm telling you what your son says, sir.
And I know what he says, and I'm going to
Your son
explain it
says,
to you.
my father doesn't work. Well, that's not a good thing for a child to even think that his father doesn't work. That's what he said. Told the
Well, that's
therapist,
because he's
my
5
father
years
doesn't...
old. He thinks a magic wand pays the bills. Just because I go out of my way to make sure I'm home when he's there so we can spend time together. I work when he's not with me.
If you have him with you 4 days a week, sir, you should be working
It's
part
not
of that
4
time.
days a week.
That's what you told me.
I'm not home
You told
4
me
days
that
a week.
you
It
had
could be 3 days a week,
50-50
1 week.
custody.
It could be 3 1 week. It could be 2 if my
Mr.
wife's
Kern,
off.
you've got an
she
answer
watches
for
him.
everything, sir. What you're asking me for is counsel fees. That's what you're asking me for.
Right.
Counsel fees. And I'm not granting those. Because he went to an attorney. I just want you to think about this. He went to an attorney and sought the advice of counsel who represented him when you filed an application to terminate the 50-50 custody arrangement. So you filed the petition first. He had to hire a lawyer. And he just said, I'd rather be on the offensive rather than on the defensive because that's his temperament.
Well, he didn't consult an attorney first. He stated that my father told him to take me to court.
No, I didn't.
He went Listen, did he have an attorney representing him?
At the ex parte hearing, he did, yes.
Did he have the attorney representing him in the case that you filed?
No.
I'm talking about the original date in May, because that you said was the original court date you had on your application. Did you have an attorney or not?
Yes.
I believe he had an attorney. His attorney started the process, so the attorney of necessity had to be with him. You don't get your counsel fees. It's unfortunate that both of you spent your money on legal fees, but you don't get your counsel fees, just like he doesn't get his. But he's better start to pay child support.
They can't find any child support because I've received a 2-cent check since the child support was ordered.
That is not true.
Well,
Here you go.
if he doesn't pay the child support order, what I'm going to suggest you do is go to the court and ask to have his driver's license suspended. You too. The first thing that states have to do under federal guidelines is take away his driver's license. And as a contractor, he needs that. Otherwise, his wife is going to have to drive herself to work and him to work. Don't let him get away without paying child support. That's his obligation as a parent, to you and to you, and to your children. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Your case is dismissed. He's not required to pay your counsel fees. That's all. Step out.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Kim Peterson is suing her mother-in-law, Rose Marmoleo, for making a false report to Child Protective Services. Kim claims Rose accused her of child endangerment.
All rise. It's case number 41 on the calendar in the matter of Peterson versus Marmolejo. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat.
Miss Peterson, the defendant is your former mother-in-law.
Correct.
You were married to her son for how long?
6 years.
And he, according to what I've read, died suddenly.
Yes.
When did he pass away?
July 5th, 2005.
And what was the cause of death?
It's a cerebral hemorrhage, but the cause of that, the underlying cause was drug abuse.
No, it was not. I
I
have a
have
copy
it,
of
Your
that,
Honor.
Your Honor.
I wasn't asking you anything.
I understand.
It is your claim that the defendant called in a report to Child Protective Services
Yes.
against you. It was false,
Yes.
and you want to be compensated.
Correct.
The defendant says that she never placed that call, and you seem to indicate that you are going to be able to prove to me that
Yes.
she did. She also complains that she no longer sees her grandson, despite the fact that there was a time when she did see him regularly. Okay. When did you find out that a call was placed to Child Protective Services?
It was March of 2007, March 1st, actually. It was called in 228.
22807.
Yes.
And how did you find out that this call was placed?
The worker put the note in my doorway.
And asked you to call?
Yes.
And you did?
Yes.
Was there an investigation?
Yes.
Do you have the results of that investigation?
Yes, I do. Unsubstantiated.
Now, Ms. Marmoleo, you did not call Child Protective Services?
Absolutely not, Your Honor.
Okay, and you know nothing about how Child Protective Services was contacted?
Yes, I do. Patrick called me.
Just a second.
Okay.
Patrick is your grandson?
No, Patrick is witness on Kim's side.
Who is this?
That's my boyfriend.
Okay. The boyfriend called you and?
And told me, forget taking Dante to school tomorrow. He said, we have a DCF appointment. He said, you and one of your old cronies probably called DCF. I knew nothing about it, so help me God. I went to school the next day.
What are you doing at child's school?
I have volunteered at all the schools for many, many years, besides my work.
Okay, go ahead.
So I went to school to see the principal, and I asked her, I said, what's the situation? I heard from
You
Patrick.
cannot tell me what the principal told you.
All right. She said...
You can't... What words
I'm
did
sorry.
you understand? You cannot tell me what the
All
principal
right.
said to you.
I found out that the school
You can't
called.
tell me what you found out.
That's how I found
hearsay.
out, though. I did not
Okay.
call.
You
I
did not call.
I did email.
You did not, just a second, you did not call, is
No,
what
I
you
did
said.
not.
And you had no knowledge of it until the plaintiff's boyfriend called you and said, you're not taking the child to school anymore because of you, we have an appointment with Protective Services.
Your
now,
Honor.
This is dated March 21st. They are closing the investigation because the allegations were unsubstantiated.
Correct.
Do you have what the allegations were?
I have the report where it says clearly that she had called and
I'd
sent
like to
the
see
email.
that. That's very important.
And
That's an email from... All right.
that's the reports from DCF.
Investigation protocol. Well, it is perfectly clear that you called the worker.
Absolutely.
You're perfectly clear that you called the worker and made this report.
I did not call DCF initially. I swear to you, I did not.
I don't care whether you called initially. It says that you
I
called them
called
March 2nd.
after the fact because I was being blamed by Patrick, and I wanted to be sure to clear myself. I also wanted to tell the person
We
at
need
DCF,
help, and quick.
Yes.
Before that woman takes the child away again.
Absolutely, she had done that before.
That has nothing to do with
Dante
you.
was frightened to me. He cried twice. I swear to you, Your Honor. May I tell you the story?
Just a second. First of all, you can't lie to me.
I'm not lying.
Well, you did.
Absolutely
you did. You
not.
absolutely did.
I did not make the initial call, Your Honor.
I didn't use the word initial.
I did.
Listen to me. I didn't use the word initial.
Well,
I said, did you call Child Protective Services? You said no. And it's clear to me from reading this exactly what happened. You spoke to the principal, and the principal called, and you followed up with Mr. Haas.
May I
There's
explain?
no question in my mind that that happened, madam.
Yes.
And there's no question in my mind that it happened because, according to you, your grandson was crying because he said, Mommy's going to move away. And you didn't want him to move away because you've taken over his education, you pay for his school in a private school, and you get to see him regularly. And according to you, which is what you just told me, she had taken him away once before, and you weren't going to have that situation happen again. That's what you said in your email. That's exactly what you said in your email.
If you allow me, I can explain that to you. 2 days prior to the principal calling, Miss Peterson went to the playground and said to the teacher, Dante should be able to call me anytime he wants.
To visit my son.
No, just
Sorry.
Listen
You
to
didn't-
Shh. Listen to me. Listen to me very carefully. You got to keep
No
it
reason
together.
to do that.
I'm sorry.
Say it to me again, just the way you just said it to me.
She said to the teacher, allow Dante to call me anytime he wants.
Absolutely right.
Absolutely. They had no problem
Well, I
with
don't
that.
like the way you said it.
That's
you
how
see,
she said it.
You understand? I don't like the way you said it. You said it as if she was saying something wrong.
That's how she approached them. Then she went into the office with a handwritten note, Your Honor, saying that Patrick would be the guardian.
That's this gentleman.
Right, that has only been in Dante's life a few months. The school felt that was highly unlikely. I wouldn't shoot myself in the foot and do that because she quickly would take our grandparent rights away, and she's done it in
You're
the past.
absolutely.
Would you please
You're
come
absolutely
forward?
right. You're absolutely right.
Come back and could you come
No,
and
just a
stand?
second.
I want you to hear something.
Just a second. You're not following me. Stop shaking, Miss Peterson. Listen to me. I get it. It's sad and unfortunate, but I get it.
Can I show you one thing, please? Your Honor, down here where Dante was being interviewed by the social worker, it says Dante, and this is alone by himself outside. Dante reported that grandmother Marmolejo does not like his mother. Dante stated that Marmolejo calls his mother stupid and says her butt smells.
I never said such a thing, so help me
Dante's
God.
questioned all this, right down the bottom here, where it
That's
says interview with
definitely-
Dante.
Miss
Well, Dante
Peterson.
said it.
I
Miss
definitely would
Peterson,
never say
listen
anything
to
like
me.
that.
Listen to me.
My God,
There is
what
no
lies.
question in my mind that the defendant inspired, precipitated the call to Child Protective Services. You her husband?
Yes, yes, I am, Your Honor.
Pay careful attention.
You need to say that.
It's not her fault that your son died. You have a grandson that I assume you want to see, and your wife is making all the wrong calls with regard to whether or not you're going to continue to be in your grandson's life. There is no question in my mind that no court will take your grandson away from his mother and turn him over to you.
We don't.
Nobody is
We
going to
wouldn't
do
wanna do that.
And listen to me.
Never do that.
And the only thing that you and your wife can do is to stay on her good side, which you haven't done. So you better have a really good talk with her.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You may be Mother of the Year, you may not be Mother of the Year, but he's your son. And
Thank
once you give these people an inch, you're going to take a whole yard. Do it until they get it.
And later today,
So you sent them more money.
Yes.
And then he wrecked that car.
Yes, ma'am.
You're just like an accident looking to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Big goofball.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kim Peterson claims her mother-in-law, Rose Marmolejo, made false accusations to Child Protective Services. Rose says Kim is keeping her from seeing her grandson.
Now, when one parent dies and the other parent is left and hooks up with somebody new, that's an irritant. And she's allowed to say, pay careful attention to me. She's the mother. She is allowed to say, if there's an emergency, you call my boyfriend who will come and take care of my child. You may not like it. That's too bad. She's the mother. That's
everything the way it occurred, Your Honor.
Hey,
Not
listen
at
to
all.
me. You just said to me, you started to tell me the story. I got it. Don't you understand? I've been in this business a long time. You were absolutely furious.
I called after the school already made the initial call.
Listen to me. Madam, I got you. You were furious that you went into school.
That's not true.
You just told me.
I was not furious, Your Honor.
You were furious
not
that you went into
never
school
would say you feel that way.
and changed the guardian to him. That's what you just told me.
That's why the school got upset. They did. I did not. Would you please stop? Could my husband please step forward?
Positively not. School doesn't get upset. School may have said to you, that's strange.
Not true.
But 2 days later, you called up and said, we need help quick. And before that woman takes our child away again, please call me ASAP so we can talk.
Dante
Dr.
cried
Kingston,
about that.
What? That's you.
He cried to me about that, Your Honor. So help me God. He did.
So as a result of that, you spoke to Child Protective Services?
Would you? My husband's on the school board. The principal told him the Thursday after.
Don't tell me what the principal told him at all. It's hearsay. I'm telling you what the official report from Child Protective Services says. Your conversation with them.
That's after.
I don't care if it's after or before.
They made the call initially.
Ms. Peterson?
Yes.
You have to take control.
I have.
Listen to me. You have to understand something. You allowed her to put your son in a private school where she pays the tuition and she volunteers. First mistake.
You're right. It was a big mistake.
First mistake. He's got to be out of that school, and he's got to be at a place where, if his grandmother wants to see him, there is a specific time that she gets to see him that you control. But you can't take with one hand, which is what you did, and you did it for the sake of your child, I assume, because he was going to a private school that perhaps you couldn't afford. But absolutely a bad idea.
You're absolutely right.
Absolutely a bad idea. She cannot have any control about what happens in your home. And you've given her that control.
Yes.
And you have to take it back if you haven't done it already.
Yeah, well, it's over.
Okay, fine. So he no longer goes to that school.
No.
Perfect. Because if you give them an inch,
I treated her lovingly.
You may be Mother of the Year, you may not be Mother of the Year, but he's your son. And once you give these people an inch, they're going to take a whole yard. Do it until they get it, that you're his mother and that you raise him. They had the opportunity to raise their son, good or bad.
She knows I have always been good to her.
Made mistakes or not make mistakes. Being good is not embroiling him in problems. And I absolutely find that this call was precipitated by you, and it was false, and it was based on the fact that you were afraid she was moving.
Absolutely not.
In the amount of $3,000. That's all. Step out.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope this sends a message to other grandparents that might try to do this.
None of this is true. I swear to you.
You can't play with a child's life. You can't do that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Williams versus Bell, step forward.
21-year-old Michelle Williams is suing her ex-boyfriend, Howard Bell, for a series of loans. Michelle says instead of repaying the money, Howard went back to his previous girlfriend.
Miss Williams, this gentleman used to be your boyfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
And unfortunately for you, you gave him a whole bunch of money. You say that you made loans to him for that money. Mr. Bell says, while he acknowledges that you gave him money, he says it's just that. You gave him money, it was a gift, there was never any agreement that he would pay you back, right?
Yes, ma'am.
How much money did you give her, Mr. Bells?
Before I left to go to Michigan, before she gave me any money, I gave her like $125.
What'd you give her that money for, sir?
Because she gave me cigarettes and stuff while I wasn't working.
So she supported you when you weren't working?
Yes, ma'am.
Fed you?
No. My aunt fed me.
Your aunt fed you. She just bought you cigarettes.
Yes, ma'am.
Shouldn't smoke, sir. It's not good for you. So you gave her $120 to pay her back?
Yes, ma'am.
For money that she spent on you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you didn't give her any money just for nothing?
No, ma'am.
But she gave you money just for nothing?
Yes, ma'am.
Why do you think she did that?
She didn't give it to me for no reason.
Well, what was the reason?
To get my car out of impound so I could be with her.
What else did she give you money for?
She would call me like 3 times a day and ask me how much money I needed, if I needed more money or whatever. And I'd be like, just whatever you want to do. And she kept sending it.
So how much money did you give him in total, Miss Williams?
I think the exact amount was $1,892.
But who's counting, right? And you just kept giving him the money.
It started out as he just wanted enough to get his car to impound. And he'd call me the next day and say that it wasn't enough, he needed a little bit more, and that went on for about 3 days. Finally, when he did get the car out of impound, he ended up wrecking it.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
At least he's polite. Go ahead.
And he called me and said that he was going to try and find another car, but he'd need to borrow the money to get it. And when he did get it, he would put it in my name when he got back up here. So he called me and tells me he found a car for $600, and he'd like me to send him that money plus another $50 for gas so he can get it up here. And he was going to have to put it in his name till he got here, and then he would put it in my name.
So you sent him more money?
Yes.
And then he wrecked that car?
Yes, ma'am.
You're just like an accident looking to happen.
Yes, ma'am.
Like a big goofball.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Now Mr. Bells is going to move over to the plaintiff's chair because he has a case against your sister. Oh, and this I'm really anxious to hear.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Michelle Williams is suing her ex-boyfriend, Howard Bell, for a series of loans. Michelle says instead of repaying the money, Howard went back to his previous girlfriend.
Okay. Now, he couldn't put the car in your name because he wrecked it.
Yeah. Well, he didn't want to tell me that he wrecked the car, so he didn't call me, didn't answer anything. And he finally shows up a week later and tells me he bought a car with his money, and he was going to put that in my name when he got up here after he fixed it.
And what happened with that car?
Wrecked it.
Miss Williams, you sent him a whole lot of money, and it's money down sewer. But I don't believe that there were loans. I believe he just took off, and then you said, I gave him all this money because I thought he was going to come here and move in with me. We were going to be a family. That was the intention.
Yes, ma'am. I have text messages on my phone where she said that she would drop the case if I would just come back and be with her.
Those were not sent from me.
And I've got text messages from her phone where she threatened to kill herself, told me that she was in the hospital for overdosing on Xanaxes and all types of other stuff.
Listen, did you take advantage of somebody who you shouldn't have?
Nope.
Yes, you did. You took advantage of them. That doesn't make it a loan. You took advantage of them. You're not supposed to do that, sir. If you take advantage of somebody who is needy and maybe not stable, that makes you not a nice person. Even if you say ma'am 40 times. Miss Williams, while I'm sympathetic with your plight, I am unsympathetic with the fact that you created a contract with Mr. Bells because I don't think that you created a contract that is legally enforceable anywhere, and you know it. So your case is dismissed. Now, we're going to take care of Mr. Bells' other case. Now Mr. Bells is going to move over to the plaintiff's chair because he has a case against your sister. Oh, and this I'm really anxious to hear. Now, Mr. Bells, you finally got another car.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind of car did you get?
I've had 17 since November.
Well, what kind of car is that we're talking about in this case, sir?
A 97 Pontiac Sunfire.
And it is your claim that the defendant, who is the sister of the former plaintiff, took a baseball bat to your car.
Yes, ma'am.
After you ditched her sister.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm all broken up about that, Mr. Bell. Can you tell? I'm going to allow you to tell me what happened, sir.
Michelle sent me a text message to tell me to come and talk to her.
Who's Michelle?
The defendant's sister. So I came up to her job to talk to her about what was going on and everything, and as soon as we pulled in the parking lot...
Who's we?
Me and Annette.
Who's Annette?
My girlfriend.
That's your current girlfriend?
She's always been my girlfriend.
Does she give you money, too?
No, ma'am.
You give her money?
Yes, ma'am.
So you had current girlfriend when you were taking money from Miss Williams. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, that's really nasty, Mr. Bell. Does your mother like him?
No.
You know why? I just knew that. 10 years from now, you won't like him either. You have children with him?
No.
Don't make any.
I can't have children anyway.
That's what they all say.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Want justice? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
So you pulled into the parking lot with your girlfriend.
Yes, ma'am.
Because Michelle wanted to speak to you, so you thought it would be nice to bring your girlfriend along.
Yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
What happened was I came to Illinois that week. I had court on April 23rd, so I was coming to my court date. And when Michelle told me to come up there, me and Annette, we came up there to talk to her, and she said that she only wanted to talk to me, not Annette, so I was the only one that could come in where she worked at. So as soon as I pulled in the parking lot...
That's understandable, Mr. Bell.
Yes, ma'am. And as soon as I pulled in the parking lot, Beth and some other girl, I don't know who the other girl was, were all standing in the parking lot, and Beth threw a baseball bat at my car.
Ah! I am absolutely despondent. Did you do that, Beth?
No, ma'am.
No, she didn't.
I had to replace.
Why would she do that? Why would she throw a baseball bat at this 1997 Pontiac? Do you still have it?
Yes, ma'am.
The Pontiac?
Yes, ma'am.
With the dent in it?
Yes, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
You haven't wrecked it yet?
No, ma'am.
You will. And then you will hardly even remember this dent that she says she didn't put in your car.
Yes, ma'am.
Good. Goodbye, sir. Have a happy life. Your case is dismissed. It's over. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Back to you, right.
Ben Fowler is suing her ex-husband, Jason Fowler, for fraudulently cashing her student loan check and for the return of personal property.
All rise. Now, this is case number 17 on the calendar in the matter of Fowler versus Fowler.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Miss Fowler, the defendant is your former husband, and it is your claim that the day before your divorce was finalized, your husband cashed a check from a student loan that was yours. It was a refund check. And in addition, he has some property that belongs to you. This all came about because after you were married, your husband, who was in the military, was stationed in Germany. You went to Germany. You have one child together.
Yes, ma'am.
And things didn't work out. You came back to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
It is your claim that the military sent some property after he left the military, and some of the property that they sent to his house belonged to you.
That's correct.
Your former husband says that he did, in fact, deposit that check into a bank account. It was a joint bank account, that you withdrew that money from the bank account. And as far as the property is concerned, you had said to him on more than one occasion that you had no interest in any of the property that you didn't take with you when you left Germany.
Yes, ma'am.
When were you married?
We were married June 9th, 2004.
And when were you divorced?
April 12th, 2006.
This refund check was when?
The refund check was, it must be dated in March of 06 or 05, I believe. It was for the 2005-2006 school year.
Well, it had to be 2006. You said it was before the divorce was final.
Yes.
The end of February 2006 is when it was.
Do you have any documentation?
No, sir. No, ma'am. My account's been closed at that bank for over a year now, and they said that the records were not available to me, or their exact
Well,
words.
it's a joint account.
It was a joint checking account with both our names on it. Yes, ma'am.
When did you leave Germany?
January 8th of 2006. And I actually have copies of the bank statements and a copy of the check as well.
I'd like to see them.
Okay.
Because, Mr. Fowler, you would agree that if you deposited the check into the account, which is what you said you did,
Yes, ma'am.
if that same amount was withdrawn by the plaintiff, the bank statement would indicate that, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And I haven't seen it yet. But if it doesn't indicate that that same amount was withdrawn, you would say that you were mistaken, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's see what happened. The two of you had separated at that point, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
What were you doing forging her name to this check?
She asked me to.
Tell me about that.
She asked me to sign it and deposit it because I asked her if I wanted her to mail it. And she said no, she did not have a bank account back home yet that she could deposit the check into or get it cashed. So she asked me would I deposit it. We both had debit cards to the same account. And I was putting money in the savings account for her to withdraw out of.
You were depositing money for her support and the support of your child?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that right?
That's not correct. I opened a bank account as soon as I returned home to Delaware in January because I began work in February. That check was cashed on April 11th of 2006.
ATM withdrawal, AMT, SH transfer. What does that mean?
It means that when he deposited that check, he transferred it into the savings account.
On April 11th. On April 11th, were you speaking to each other? I mean, the divorce was finalized on April 12th.
Probably not, to be very honest with you, Your Honor.
I'd like you to take a look at this, sir. It appears as if you deposited this check on April 11th, and then it was transferred to another account.
To our savings account where she could get the money out with her debit card in Delaware.
Well, then you should have a joint savings account, sir. Do you have that?
Oh, we had one at the time.
Well,
That
you should
checking
be
was-
able to get that, sir. It comes from the same bank, doesn't it?
I don't have that account no more. Neither one of them. They're both closed.
But she has the information on this account, sir, and it's your problem to establish to my satisfaction that you didn't take this money yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
It doesn't indicate here that she got this money. It indicates here that you got this money.
I deposited it in our savings account and transferred it right to our savings account, right where she asked
Well, then you
us
should
to.
have brought that information here for me, sir. It's easy to get. We're not talking about something that happened during the Civil War.
ma'am.
Okay. He forgot. All right. Now, the other part of your lawsuit has to do with property.
Yes, ma'am.
What property?
There are some personal property items that when...
You know, I'm relatively unimpressed by this property baloney. You understand that?
Yes.
Okay, because I think you're a smart gal. Why don't you tell me why I'm unimpressed with this property?
Because it's just property.
Because if you wanted it, you should have taken it with you.
At that point in time, I could not, ma'am.
Why?
Because all I could take were the suitcases. I was only allowed a certain number of suitcases.
You don't have to take it with you. You ship it.
He was supposed to do that, Your Honor.
What about you? You're leaving. You say, this is mine. This is yours. You pack it up and you send it. 2 years later, you don't come to court and cry because you don't have what? A music box? What do you want?
Just what's mine.
What?
It's clothing, shoes.
Should have taken your clothing and shoes with
I
you.
took
He
as
doesn't
much
have.
as I could.
He doesn't have your clothing and shoes anymore. I guarantee you, he's not using them.
I hope not.
He doesn't have them anymore. What else?
Items of
You're
our
out
sons.
of style anyway.
Items of our sons.
What?
Toys, clothing.
Your son grew out of the clothing from 2006.
Yes, ma'am.
And he doesn't play with the same toys.
No, he does not.
So what are you making a big deal about?
Well, we've actually been fighting over this since the shipment arrived last May.
It's over. What else are you fighting about with him?
Back child support, but the state of Delaware is handling that.
It's already been handled and arranged to make payments. I've got my child support comes directly out of my check, along with whatever's paid to go back, because I was stupid and sent her cash instead of sending her a check every month. So that was my own stupidity, and I admit that, but I'm paying the back child.
Listen to me.
I know.
Why did you send her cash? You mean you put cash in an envelope?
Yes, ma'am.
You put cash in an envelope.
It's illegal, I know.
Right? I'm 6'2". You were in the military?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't want me to think badly of the military, do you?
No, ma'am, no.
Well, then why would you make such a stupid statement that you put cash in an envelope and send it to her? Nobody puts cash in an envelope. I don't even put $1 in an envelope to send it to my grandchildren. Don't you watch 20/20 and 60 Minutes and everything else, what goes on? Cash doesn't arrive. $5 doesn't arrive. How much were you putting in cash in the envelope?
Anywhere from $200 to $400.
Ah!
And she got it every time.
She got it every time. Really? Did you get the $200 to $400 that he sent you in cash?
Every month.
Every month.
No, ma'am. He has not paid. Prior to November 15th of 2006, I have received no money from him except for $200 in February.
How come they didn't take money out of his check?
We have just had the court order established, the state of Delaware.
We just got our child support through the courts just not too long ago, is why the child support just got established.
Well, that's
And the
ridiculous.
custody
You were
battle is
divorced in
still-
April of 2006.
The custody battle is still going on as we speak.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
If I had a child, I wouldn't have moved to Georgia.
I got another son in Florida also, so
Well, then
I
you
just
gotta
moved
learn
back
to
home.
keep
That's
it
all I
zipped,
did.
sir, or at
I
least
don't have
get
to
it
worry about-
geographically suitable.
And later today,
Do you have any proof that you made any payments in May of 06?
No, I do not.
Do you have any proof that you made any payments in April of 06?
I don't have any proof of any payments that I made.
Well, that's a problem, sir. So what do you want me to do for you?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Devin Fowler claims ex-husband Jason Fowler fraudulently cashed her student loan check. Jason denies the accusation.
What kind of custody battle?
There is no custody battle, Your Honor.
Last year for his birthday, I drove 12 hours from where I live in Georgia to Delaware to see him on his birthday and got to spend 4 hours with him, at which she walked around the mall with me and my oldest son and Harley and my fiance, now, she wasn't at the time, and wouldn't let me spend no quality time with him at all.
Why did you bring your girlfriend with you?
Because it's a long drive and she helped me drive. And we had just gotten off work. We went up there in 2 days and came right back. Went up there and came right, I mean, it was just a round-robin trip just to see him for his birthday.
Where did you move to when you left Germany?
I moved back to Delaware and with my parents, who've been very supportive.
Where had you married?
In Delaware.
Delaware.
In Delaware?
Mm-hmm.
And where had you met him?
In Delaware.
In Delaware. Where did you move to?
Georgia.
Georgia?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, listen to me. If I had a child and I wanted to be near my child, a child that was born in Delaware, where I married in Delaware, where I lived in Delaware, I wouldn't have moved to Georgia.
I got another son in Florida also, so
Well, then
I
you
just
got to
moved
learn
back
to
home.
keep
That's
it
all I
zipped,
did.
sir, or at
I
least
don't have
get it
to worry about-
geographically suitable.
I got it taken care of.
Geographically suitable.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
want to pollinate half the civilized world, sir? I would suggest you do it in the same state. You owe her $1,046.09. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Parties are excused. You may step out.
I have filed for sole custody, and there is really no reason why the court wouldn't award me that.
I just hope I can see my son when I need to and
He's seen our son for 4 hours since January 8th of 2006.
get him and get visitation when I need to get it.
So he's not involved.
Aggravation in my life is all it is.
You know, I just want what's best for my child.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Grunwald versus Stone, step forward.
21-year-old Jennifer Grunwald and her mother, Deborah, are suing Jennifer's former live-in boyfriend, Ryan Thone, for an unpaid loan to get back on his feet and for stealing software from her computer.
Miss Grunwald, this used to be your boyfriend, and according to the complaint that I read, that is both yours and your mother's, you lived with him for a period of time. When was that?
He moved in May of 2005, and then he moved all of his stuff out by the mid-January of 2006.
Moved out all of his stuff from an apartment that you shared together?
That is correct.
Now, according to this complaint, you took out a loan for him.
That is correct.
And you claim that he hasn't repaid the full amount of the loan. And your mother is here because she says that the two of you paid off that loan together after you broke up. You also claim that he took some software that didn't belong to him when he left.
That is correct.
I don't know what you're angry about that brings you to court 2 years later, but I'm sure you're going to tell me. When did you take out the loan?
I took out the loan in May of 2005.
What was it for?
To pay off the rest of the loan for his car that he was unable to pay off.
What was your car payment, sir?
It was $164 a month. I sold my...
How many cars did the two of you have when you lived together?
One.
Were you both using your car?
We were using her car.
So, when you say you had one car, this car payment was for whose car?
My old car. I sold it before I moved in with her.
Why did you do that?
Because I wouldn't have been able to make payments on my insurance and the car and pay for half of the rent with her.
So you sold that car, but you still had a payoff on the loan.
Yes.
What was the amount of the loan that she co-signed for?
I don't know what the amount was because she took some money out for herself, too, to pay off credit cards.
That, Your Honor, is a lie.
Well, I don't know about that. Let's see what the...
Well, this is strictly for the car
Let me
payment.
see. Let me see.
That is the exact amount that I had taken out on the loan.
Okay, let's see. $1,000. Is that right?
And then there was some interest on it, too. The total was $1,081.56.
How was that correct when I paid off my bank like $980?
The amount she received was $1,000. And how much was the amount you paid off? $986?
Yes,
Well, then maybe she took out $14 and paid her own bills.
that's fine.
Now, you then stayed together 8 months after this loan was taken out.
Yes.
Mr. Thone says that he made payments of $90, which is what he was required to do, every month for 9 months. Is that what you're saying, sir?
Yes.
Who did you give the money to?
Her.
Your Honor, that's
How?
a lie.
Did you have a joint checking account?
No, we did not.
Were you working
Yes, I was.
all the time?
Yes, I was.
Your Honor, that's a lie.
If you say it again, I'm going to dismiss your case and you're going to leave. Do you understand?
I understand.
How much was the rent?
It was $292.50 a month.
And you paid half?
Yes, I did.
Who did you pay the money to?
Paid it to Jen, or else I'd write out the check to her landlord.
Okay, so May, first payment is due.
June was the very first payment. June 2005 on the 15th was the first payment that was due.
Okay, I want you to show me that between June 2005 and December 2006 that you personally paid the loan. Looks like that these payments were made regularly,
That is correct, Your Honor.
each and every month.
Each and every month, right on time.
Right. And he says that while you were together, he gave you the money for these.
He gave me the money for the first 4 months that he had a steady job. After that, it always came out of my account, and he gave me either check or cash. It depended
Well,
on
how
the
am I supposed to tell the difference between what you paid and what he paid? The first payment is due in June. June, July, August, September, October, November, and December. Then he left in December. That would be 3 months. Did you pay anything on this loan after you moved out, sir? You say in December?
I paid one more payment in December.
Show me.
I don't have any proof of it.
Well, how could you not have proof, sir?
Because my account was closed down 2 years ago.
See, she's got all of her accounts.
Yes, that's because I paid her with either a check or my cash, and she put it into her account and then paid for it.
No, but I understand what you're saying, sir.
Yes.
So you can get your records. These go back to 2005.
When did she get them?
I don't care when she got them. Where are yours?
I don't have them.
In September of 2006 was his last payment, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Why would I not pay the last couple of months that we were together, though?
All you have to do is show me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's a hustler.
I know.
He's a
Your
hustler.
Honor, I know.
Okay.
And she's a cheater, too, and kicks people out.
I would have kicked you out a long time ago.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jennifer Grunwald claims ex-boyfriend Ryan Thone owes for an unpaid loan to get back on his feet and for stealing software from her computer.
Show me that you made the payment. It's easy, right?
How can she prove that it was her money and not my money, though?
Because this bank statement is her bank statement.
Yes,
it's
and
in
I
her
was
name.
giving her
it's
money.
in her name. And you're telling me that you gave her money. So all you have to do is show me a check made out to her, which you don't have.
No,
a
ma'am.
bank statement where you took out from an ATM or a cash machine or at the teller $90 on the 15th of every month and gave it to her. Something, sir. So
Well,
I
there
have
was
to make a judgment.
Well, I understand that, but there was some times where I get my check from work, I go to the bank, I cash my check, and I just keep out some of the money for whatever expenses, buying whatever, and then I give her some of the
She acknowledges
money.
that 4 months' worth of payments you actually made. June, July, August, and September. Can you explain to me why, sir, you think that after all of this time she is pursuing this money if you don't owe it to her?
I have no idea. I know that her dad's business is getting closed down, and he's going back. Maybe they're hard up for cash. I don't know.
I did not that hard up for this cash, sir.
Well, I don't know why they do it after me being without her for a year and a half.
I don't know either, but all I can tell you is the last payment that was made on this account was May of '06. Do you have any proof that you made any payments in May of '06?
No, I do not.
Do you have any proof that you made any payments in April of '06?
I don't have any proof of any payments that I made.
Well, that's a problem, sir. So what do you want me to do for you? What do you want me to do
It's
for
my
you?
word against her word.
No,
She
she
can
has.
say what she
This is
wants.
evidence.
That's fine.
This
But-
is evidence.
Okay, well then go back to the first month on June when I paid her. What did that come out of? Did that come out of her?
I don't know,
account?
sir, but all I'm telling you is that there were payments made on this account in 2006.
Okay, and I also never signed anything with her either.
April of 2006, when you were no longer together. That's not 2 years ago. That's yesterday. Very easy for you to get whatever account you had and demonstrate that you made any payments on this account. According to you, you weren't even together for 9 months because the first payment was due in June.
I
Had
moved
you
out.
asked-
I was living with a friend.
When did you move out in December?
I got all my stuff out the first couple of days in December because I stayed the
So
weekend
then you wouldn't
before.
even have made December's payment. So you would have June, July, August, September, October, November. That's only 6 months, sir. You swore that you made 9 months' worth of payments at $90 each. You want me to show you what you said?
What's that?
What word didn't you understand? I said, do you want me to show you what you said? You said, I made 9 payments of $90 to Jennifer.
Yep.
When? You just told me you moved out the first few days in December. When did you make
April,
$90?
May, June, July,
Not
August,
May!
September.
There's no May, sir.
Yes,
Here-
there is. because
No,
I gave
sir,
her
there's
money.
no May.
She took it out in May.
First payment, according to your contract, is due June 15th, 2006.
Okay, contract, but I never signed anything.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Have you been cheated? Go to judgejudy.com or call 1-888-800-JUDY.
He's a hustler.
I know.
He's a
Your
hustler.
Honor, I know.
Okay.
And she's a cheater, too,
Excuse me?
and kicks people out. Yeah.
I would have kicked you out a long time ago. But get over the software. I don't even want to hear about software.
Okay, Your Honor. Your Honor, I have one more thing to show you.
Go ahead.
I have Ryan's criminal record
I
from.
have to see his criminal record.
Well, I
I was
just wanted
under
to
18
prove
at that time,
dishonesty.
too.
Can I ask
And
you a
she's
question?
in law enforcement
Can I
right
ask you a
now,
question?
too.
What?
So it's probably how she got that, so.
You weren't losing that argument.
I
So
know.
why don't you just be quiet?
Because I don't think it's right that she took that out.
Sue her.
I can sue her because I'm over here.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,188. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. I'll be back. Go to your right, please.
Dr. Eric Schoenberg is suing pet shop owner Robert Meyer for selling him 4 diseased turtles. Eric says 3 of the turtles eventually died.
Order. All rise. Yeah, this is case number 288 on the calendar in the matter of Schoenberg versus Meyer. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Folks, have a seat, please.
Is it Dr. Schoenberg?
Yes.
Are you a physician?
Yes.
Dr. Schoenberg, I read in your complaint that you purchased some turtles from the defendant's pet shop.
Correct.
You purchased them in order to create a habitat for them in your home. I don't know how large they were, but within a relatively short period of time, they got sick and died. You believe that Mr. Meyer is responsible for not only the turtles, but also for the substantial veterinary bills that you had in order to try to treat them for an illness that you say they had when you got them from him. Mr. Meyer says he offered you your money back when he found out that there was a problem, but he's certainly not responsible for these astronomical veterinary bills that were racked up as a result of your desire to treat the animals. How large were these turtles?
Between 4 and 5 inches, length of the shell.
And how much did you pay for them?
$17.99 each.
Had you ever had turtles before?
Yes.
What happened to them?
I had them when I was about 10 years old, and I had caught them when I was at camp, and I kept them till I went to college, and then I gave them to the Turtleback Zoo, which was a nearby zoo where I lived in New Jersey.
And they survived?
Never had a problem, no illness, did beautifully.
Did you have had other pets other than turtles?
No.
Really?
Really.
Interesting. Tell me why.
I have a fascination with turtles for a few reasons. One, right now I find them inspiring because it helps me to slow down. They're very graceful in the water, but when they're on land, they're very slow and they just seem very pensive. And I find them very inspiring. They live over 50 years, typically, these turtles. So I think for children, they're nice in that sense that you can really get to know them. And they do have different personalities. They're not all the same. They do take on individual personalities.
Explain that to me.
Well, part of the way we name them is the way they behave. Some are more friendly, some are more, a little more aggressive. They each take on a little different way about it.
You know, I'm an animal lover, so I don't want you to take this as meaning any disrespect. Sure. Are they smart?
Well, I have my veterinarian to attest the fact that they're certainly not dogs or cats, but they do, and certainly...
I mean, there's a certain survival instinct that all animals have, so in that regard, they can survive. They look for water, they look for food, so okay, but...
They've been around a lot more than we have on this earth. Millions of years.
So have roaches.
That's true. Good. You got me there. But I really believe, and I'm sure if you ask most turtle lovers, they'll agree that they do take on different personalities, and they definitely do have a higher thought process, not as high as a dog, but higher than a roach.
I know that I'll probably get lots of mail about this because there are people that love every creature. In any event, when did you purchase the turtles?
May 27th, Memorial Day weekend, 2006.
Is that correct, sir?
Yes.
And how many turtles did you have in your shop?
8 or 9.
When had you gotten them?
About a week and a half prior to that.
From whom?
It's from a distributor. They're animal distributors. This one in particular was a reptile distributor.
When was the first sign that there was something untoward with the turtles?
Every day after work, I came home and fed them, so they were doing fine until June 5th. I built a large 8 by 12-foot enclosure for them outside, plenty of room to swim and sunbathe, which sunbathing is very important for them. And on June 5th, I went out to feed them, and I saw one of them convulsing in the water. So I immediately took that turtle out of the water, and I tried to find the other turtles, and at the time, I could only find one other. So I took the one that was convulsing plus that turtle, put him in a box, and I tried to call Mr. Meyer, but I could not get a hold of him. But I knew I had to do something quickly, because I know that turtles, if they get sick, it's something is critically wrong.
How do you know that?
Because I know they have a slow metabolism. It takes a while for them to show a problem. And I had them for 7 years, and they never showed any illness. So something like this obviously looked like, I can't mimic the motion, but it was an obvious convulsion.
Okay.
It looked like a seizure almost. And so I scrambled to try to find a veterinarian in my area who specialized in reptiles, or hopefully turtles. And fortunately, everybody who I called referred me over to Dr. Burgess's office. That's Dr. Burgess there.
Step up, sir. Dr. Burgess, June 5th, receive a call from Dr. Schoenberg, who ultimately brings over the 2 turtles to you. What do you find?
Well, he sounded pretty urgently concerned, so we had him come in right away. And both turtles had problems. What struck me, however, was the one that he was concerned about, which was Sammy, looked seriously ill. And this turtle, on physical exam, the thing that I noticed mostly was how extremely weak he was. And these are really feisty little turtles. They're not weak animals. And this kid was pretty much flat out. That's the biggest thing that concerned me right off the top. On closer inspection, I noticed something that the average observer probably wouldn't notice, and that was there were a bunch of discolored areas on the underside of the shell, which is typical of shell rot. The average observer might just think that's a normal color pattern because they have kind of blotchy colors anyway. But I was suspicious that it didn't look right, so I grabbed a small metal probe and was probing these areas, and they were soft. So I knew that there was infection dissolving away the underlying bone and shell. The two things you want to know about shell rot is, number one, it's usually easily treated. But it can, if it goes on long enough, get into the bloodstream, the bacteria can. Then they become septic, and then they'll go down quick. They'll convulse, all their organs are infected, and you can actually lose some of those. The second thing about shell rot is you almost never see it unless the turtles are housed in improper situations. In fact, 95% of all reptile cases we see are poor husbandry related. Crowding, dirty water, too cool of temperatures, not enough ultraviolet light. There's a lot of ways that the turtles can be stressed and their immune system falters. Then they become prone to infections from things that a normal turtle would resist.
And how long does that process generally take?
As advanced as this case was, that takes weeks at least to occur, sometimes months. But to dissolve bone and shell away like that to that extent takes a while. And again, on the surface, they were very unimpressive lesions, easily overlooked. In fact, Eric, who was babying these turtles, didn't notice the lesions either until I pointed them out to him. It just is something you have to kind of know to look for. Doing it for 20 years, I knew to look for it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You got about 10 turtles from the wholesaler?
That's correct.
Now, you're under oath, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
How many of them survived?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dr. Eric Schoenberg claims pet shop owner Robert Meyer is responsible for selling him 4 diseased turtles. Eric says 3 of his pets suffered an untimely death.
Now, let me ask you this question, Dr. Burgess. If you had seen these turtles, say, a week before, would they have shown similar signs?
Probably, yes. As advanced as these were, there would have been lesions there a week earlier as well.
So they would have been visible to you, for instance, on the 28th of May.
Yes, they should have been.
Now, one of the turtles died when?
The sickest turtle, Sammy, died within 24 hours of us seeing it. I got it on antibiotics, but it just basically went down quick.
And the others?
He had a total of 4, one of which died at home. Of the other 2 that were alive after the first day, the second turtle died about 8 days after we started treating it. And again, this raised alarm bells because we have a high percentage of success rate even with advanced shell rot. And I knew he had them warm enough, he had them in good conditions, they should have been surviving. So we cultured the shell after the second one died and found out that they had 2 species of bacteria there, one of which was particularly difficult to treat. And we ended up having to do double antibiotic therapy for weeks to save the last one, and we actually did manage to save that one. We were using antibiotics by injection in all 4 legs because you can't inject the shell. And after weeks and weeks of double antibiotic injections, this turtle ended up, unfortunately, with severe damage to both front legs. So essentially, her right front leg is virtually useless. Her left front leg is partially paralyzed. So she's in need of special conditions just to pull herself out of the water. He had to build a ramp down in the water that's at a shallow angle because she can't pull herself out of the water to bask. She does have basically permanent damage, even though we healed the shell rot.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So, Dr. Schoenberg, when did you finally contact Mr. Mayer, and what did he say when you contacted him?
June 14th was the day the second one died.
Okay.
So it was that day that I finally made contact with him.
How many calls did you make to him?
It was probably about 5. I have the exact phone records.
Did you speak to anyone?
I spoke with a young woman there, and they said he's not around. I'll have him call you. Never a return call.
When was the first time you got a message from him, Mr. Mayer?
It was before the 14th. It was probably the 12th or the 13th. I was probably busy, and I don't know why I didn't get the phone message before the 12th.
When you got it on the 12th, did you call him right back?
I think I probably waited until the 14th and to get a hold of him.
When you sell an animal at your pet shop, Mr. Mayer, do you instruct people, please take the pet to a vet, have it checked out? You know, you give a money-back guarantee if something is wrong within 24 hours or 48 hours. Is that what you do?
We state that we have a 7-day health guarantee, depending, it's 7 and 14, depending on the type of animal. In this particular case, for reptiles, it's 7 days that we guarantee the animal.
Do you have a piece of paper that says that?
No, I got nothing in writing about that.
I didn't give him anything in writing, but it's stated at the time of purchase.
Who states it?
The person selling the turtle. In that
well,
case,
that's
it was
hearsay,
myself.
sir. What you're supposed to do is...
It was myself that sold the turtle to Mr. Schoenberg.
Did you tell him that there was a 7-day
Yes,
health
I did.
guarantee? You remember that?
Yes, I always say that whenever I sell an animal, I was the boss, and I employed teenagers, therefore I had to be very consistent with what I did.
But you are not there all the time.
That's correct.
And if you're not there all the time, that means that one of your teenage employees will be selling animals.
That's correct. But by setting precedents and by showing example with myself in the way I do it, and
what you have to do is put it in writing, Mr. Mayor.
I do have something that's filled out when somebody purchases an animal. In this case, it wasn't done, but in most cases it is.
You have to be consistent and done, Mr. Mayor.
That's correct.
So when you purchase an animal, and if you're giving a 7-day guarantee, then what you have to do is say, you have 7 days, take the animal to the vet, because that's where I'm going with my questions to the doctor, because he's already said that this situation would have presented itself had Mr. Schoenberg taken within 7 days the animals to a vet, had them checked out. He would have seen that there was something wrong with them. He would have had an option of returning them to you, and you would have given him his money back. Or if he chose to treat them, then the vet bill's on him. But if you're not told that you have that option of bringing it back, why aren't you responsible? And then you proceed, if this kind of situation, Mr. Mayor, comes from the wholesaler, not from you, but from the wholesaler, then you sue the wholesaler. While we're on that subject, you got about 10 turtles from the wholesaler?
That's correct.
Are you under oath, Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
How many of them survived?
After Mr. Schoenberg got in touch with me, I put a freeze on selling any of the turtles.
What did you do with them?
Well, I just stopped selling them until I
What did you... Mr. Mayor, let's not mince words, sir.
Sure.
What I want to know is what did you do with the other 6 turtles?
I had to close my store at the end of June, and so I adopted the rest of the turtles out, but all of them were alive.
All of them were alive when you
Yes.
adopted them out?
Yes.
Dr. Schoenberg, when you called Mr. Mayor and told him that this was a problem with your turtles, did he indicate to you any of the other turtles had a problem?
He didn't make any mention of the other animals. My wife felt like she wanted to adopt them and take care of them because she knew what was going to happen to them, because he indicated that his philosophy on animals, that is, if they become ill, he prefers euthanasia to treatment, even if the disease, as this one was, is completely treatable with antibiotics. This was not a terminal disease.
Mr. Schoenberg stated it incorrectly. What my philosophy on animals was that he stated that I should that euthanasia is the key. If it's deemed that it's more of a business decision, in my case, that if the animal is going to cost $700 or $1,000 to fix, and it's a $17.99 turtle, I can't stay in business and do that. And so I would not want to, but have to euthanize the turtles.
Dr. Schoenberg, Mr. Mayor says that he got these pets about a week and a half before you purchased them. Your expert says that this particular kind of disease, to have advanced to this point, can sometimes take months. Is that right, sir?
Usually weeks, occasionally months, yeah.
Well, Dr. Burgess, let's step up for one more second, sir. I'm going to pin you down.
Okay.
Sometimes it can take months.
Yes.
And sometimes it can take weeks.
Yes.
Could it take 1 week?
Not as advanced as this was.
When you saw the 4th turtle, was it ill?
Yes.
And you could tell right away?
From the shell, yes.
But when you saw the first turtle that was so ill, you couldn't tell from the outside that there was a very severe strain of bacteria that required a different kind of antibiotic.
Not just at a glance, nobody can tell.
Dr. Schoenberg, you went to the pet store and saw the habitat where they were living.
Yes.
And I must assume that as an intelligent and medically trained person, you would not have purchased these turtles were the habitat conditions unclean, unsanitary, looking unhealthy. They looked fine to you.
They looked adequate to me.
No. Let's not play. They looked fine to you, or you would not have purchased them and then invested in the habitat. Come on, let's not play.
Absolutely right.
Okay. Now, I would assume that you could not tell when you took the turtles home, at least from the 27th of May, according to you, until June 5th, that there was anything wrong with these turtles.
Correct.
Why do you ascribe something more to Mr. Meyer?
I have records here from animal control that show that there was a lot going on in his pet store that I didn't know about. And if you would like to see those documents, I'd be happy to share them with you that show the kind of conditions that were there that perhaps I didn't see that day. I just was focused on turtles, and I went right in.
I'm just interested in turtles.
Yes.
I'm not interested in whether he's a good husband, a bad father, a good son, a good nephew, whether he does other things. You saw the turtles.
Yes.
I mean, he didn't take the turtles out at night and put them in the toilet. He left them in the same conditions that you saw them in.
I don't know that.
Which were clean conditions. Well, he doesn't look like a nut. And nuts would have taken them out of a clean condition and put them in a dirty condition. For what purpose? That sounds ridiculous. So let's see what we have, Dr. Schoenberg. We have a medically trained man, buys the turtles, looks as if they're being kept and maintained in a perfectly adequate habitat. You don't see anything wrong with them. No signs of illness. According to you, they were playful and they were eating, appeared perfectly normal. So you are really asking him not to give you back the money for these turtles. You believe he is responsible for the veterinary bills, which were $2,200.
Actually, the veterinary bills were $1,400. The other amount of money is to get special housing for the turtle inside to take care of her since she's handicapped. Otherwise, I would have
Well,
housed
that's
her.
another decision that you made, Dr. Schoenberg. You made that decision. Certainly, if you were a Darwinist, you would have said, maybe this little turtle, unfortunately, doesn't want to live for the next 50 years, having to pull herself out of the water because she's paralyzed in one leg and partially paralyzed in another. That's a decision that you made, and I can't fault you for that decision, but you can't visit that on Mr. Mayer. I mean, I'm an animal lover, and I would, quite frankly, love to look at Mr. Mayer and paint him as the devil if he sold animals that he knew were ill. But I guarantee you, Mr. Mayer is not an expert in turtles. Am I correct?
That's correct.
That's a very limited interest base. Dr. Burgess, what was your initial visit for the sick turtle?
It would have been probably 150 at most, I would think. And
150?
That was for two turtles.
And for the two turtles. And then he brought you a third one.
Yeah.
And a fourth one.
Fourth one had died on the premises. I never saw the fourth one.
You saw three. You saved one.
Yes.
Three died. Anything you want to say to me, Mr. Meyer?
I'm an animal lover myself, and I'm sorry for the turtles that have died, but in a business I can't control whether someone goes outside of my vision and treats an animal.
Mr. Mayor, if I had any inkling that you had prior knowledge that these turtles were ill when you sold them, my decision here would have been totally different. But I think that Dr. Schoenberg, with his medical expertise and his expertise in these particular kinds of reptiles, if he couldn't tell that there was anything wrong with them for at least 10 days, then I can't fault you. But you are responsible for the initial visits for pets. That's $150 each. That's $300. And the cost of them are $54. Yes?
I'd like to say that I got these animal control records. There were 17 complaints. One of them was that he housed different reptiles together. So there's every indication that there was definitely animal neglect on his part, indicating that he was not treating the animals humanely, including reptiles. And now if you house reptiles, turtles with lizards, or mixing them up.
Did you see the turtles housed with lizards?
I didn't, but he could have done it when I wasn't there.
Well, Dr. Schoenberg, doesn't sound right to me. Doesn't sound like it's common sense that you have a habitat for lizards and you have a habitat for turtles. And after everybody leaves the store, you take the time to put them all together in an unsanitary condition. That doesn't make sense, Dr. Schoenberg. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $354. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Apartment complex owner Lance Kochan is suing his former tenant, 20-year-old photographer Trista Jeter, for an unpaid loan for breast implant surgery. Trista says the surgery was Lance's idea.
Now, this is case number 118 on the calendar in the matter of Kochan versus Jeter. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Mr. Kochan, it is your claim that you made a loan to the defendant for her to have breast augmentation surgery.
Correct.
And in addition, you paid some of her bills while she was recuperating.
Yes.
You want to be reimbursed for this loan. Ms. Jeter says that there was no loan. You did this because you were sort of infatuated with her, and there was no expectation that you would ever be repaid for the money that you gave her. So let's just cut to the chase. Are you a very rich man?
I do all right.
Yes,
Well-
he is definitely a rich man.
We'll get to you in a second.
Okay.
Do you give to charity? Don't look down. That's a very simple question. The words, if you're a rich man,
No.
You don't. So you're not a philanthropist?
No.
So there had to be a reason, sir, why you decided to loan money to somebody that you weren't related to for a surgical procedure that was not necessary. She wasn't having a kidney replaced. Why don't you tell me why you did that?
Well, she was a tenant of mine for a while. And when she moved in, she cleaned the apartment up that she lived in. She cleaned it up very well, better than most of the people I hired to do that. So as time went on, as apartments came available, I would ask her if she wanted to do it.
and she was making $200 an apartment, doing one a day. You know, at her age, making $1,000 a week, it was pretty good money. We live in Las Vegas, and women with big breasts get better jobs. It's a fact.
She doesn't need that if she's just doing house cleaning.
Correct, but she doesn't want to be a housekeeper forever.
I assume not from the outfit she chose to wear to court that she doesn't want to be a house cleaner forever. You still don't answer my question, sir. My question was, why did you loan Miss Jeter, your tenant/house cleaner, money for breast surgery?
Because she came to me and asked for it. And I thought it would be a good loan because at the time she was making a lot of money for me.
Well, tell me about the time she came to you, sir, and asked you for the loan.
We were at an apartment.
Okay.
And she basically said she got...
Okay, and when was this?
Early part of November of '03.
And you say to her, and she says to you, let me have it.
She says she doesn't like doing this anymore. She wants to get into something else, work in the casino. And if she had breast augmentation, it would help her get a good job. So at that time, she asked me for it.
What did she ask you?
To loan her the money to get breast augmentation.
And you said?
I don't know. And it took a while, you know, a little bit of persistence over the next couple of weeks, till finally I gave in, said, okay.
Did you ever say to her, why don't you just put this on your credit card since you're making this kind of good money? You can pay off your credit card. Bada bing, bada boom.
Because
2 months.
She didn't have a credit card.
Well, she could pay off the doctor.
Doctor wouldn't finance her.
How do you know that?
Because she went to the doctor and the doctor said he wouldn't.
How do you know that?
She told me.
So then you asked her that question. Is that what you're telling me, Mr.
I pretty much assumed that.
No.
There's no way she could do that.
Don't listen to me. Don't assume anything. When I ask you a question, give me an answer. Not a makeup. Not a what you suppose.
Okay, what was the question one more time?
The question was, why couldn't she finance the surgery by paying off the doctor? And you said to me, because the doctor wouldn't accept payments. And I said, how do you know that? And you said, well, I just pretty much surmised.
Well,
so the answer is, I don't know.
It's my credit.
I didn't speak to you.
Okay.
You see, what I'm trying to figure out, Mr. Cochan, is if you're going to be honest with me, sir. You left out the fact that you and Miss Jeter dated a few times, according to what I read here. Is that right?
Correct.
Well, why didn't you put that in? You made it appear as if this was a strictly business relationship, sir.
We went out a couple times. That wasn't a relationship.
How many times is a couple of times?
3. A couple dinners, a movie.
Okay. And at the time that you loaned her the money, when was the time immediately prior to that that you had been out on a date with her?
It was after that.
So after you loaned her the money, you went out on several dates?
3 dates.
Now, after December, did you try to see her again? Did you try to date again?
No, we just didn't really get along. We were just different people.
Is that right?
Definitely.
Did you ask her out again?
No.
Any particular reason for that?
We just didn't seem to get along. We didn't click.
Now, in January, I assume Miss Jeter went back to work. Is that right?
Yes.
Yes.
How much money did she give you in January?
On January 12th, she cleaned an apartment for me, which I credited her $200.
Is that right, Miss Jeter?
Yes.
Okay. When's next, Mr. Cochan?
Then on January 16th, which I assume she got paid on the 15th from her job at the time, she gave me $100. Then on February 1st, she gave me another $100. And then on February 14th, she gave me another $100. So she paid me back a total of $500.
Out of how much?
Out of a total of $5,050.
I'll hear you.
He pretty much put it in my head that he wanted to do that for me, okay? He gave me the idea since
How did he put that in your head?
Because I told him that what I wanted to do for a job, okay, and that was cocktail in Las Vegas. I've already been offered a job in Las Vegas to do that. And it's just easier to get a job having this operation done when I had nothing before. And so he said, well, yeah, you know, his ex-girlfriend had it done, and so he told me that that'd be a good idea. So he made me feel like it was okay to ask him to do that. Okay, as far as paying him back goes, nothing was supposed to come out of my pocket cash-wise. I was supposed to just clean his apartments out, but none came available after my operation was done. I was healed and everything. So I had to get a new job and just to pay my bills off, and I wanted to move because it's a bad area.
Yeah, but if I don't have a part...
Just a second. What you're saying to me was it was a loan.
Okay.
And you were supposed to pay him back. Stop twisting your head. Can you keep your head still, please? You look like a
It just keeps
back
getting
of
in
a
my
car.
face. Sorry.
What you're telling me is that what you were supposed to do is pay him back in kind by cleaning the apartments for which you were paid $200 an apartment, and you were going to pay him back from that, but that after January, apartments didn't become available. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. But you also, in the same breath, said to me that you wanted to get away from that area because it's a bad area. So was it your intention to go back to the complex to do cleaning to pay off this loan?
Yeah, that was before I had gotten my job already, that I had to have to pay the bills to pay to get out of that place.
But that new job, I assume, didn't leave you the same kind of free time as your previous work, if any, so that there was no time for you, even if apartments became available, to clean the apartments. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Get her a copy of my book.
He didn't
Gonna
do his
get
part
her
of
a
the
copy
job
of the
as far
book.
as giving me work, okay? No apartments were available, so I had to get a job where I could have money, and so I could pay my bills, and he didn't he didn't live up to his part of the bargain. So.
Yeah, but if apartment...
I got it. I just laid it out. Sir, did you ever hear the story, there's no fool like an old fool? Right? Right. You're not so old, but you're pretty foolish. Better give your money to charity. Do you understand? There are all kinds of worthwhile charities around. The breast augmentation surgery doesn't fall under that category. Do I make myself clear? All right. She owes you $4,550. She doesn't dispute the amount, only that it was a loan. It was a loan. Pay it back. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I loaned her money and she didn't pay it back. So now we came to court and it's solved, and hopefully I'll get paid back now.
How do you live without money, right? And I have to pay bills, and he's interfering with that, so.
No, we dated a few times and it didn't work out, and that was the end of it. We ended it.
I'm just glad it's over with, and I'll definitely never get myself in this situation again.
I guess justice prevailed. I won.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McCaskill versus Poole. Step forward, please.
17-year-old student Matt McCaskill is suing his schoolmate, 16-year-old Anthony Poole, and his father, Rob Poole. Matt claims Anthony keyed his truck.
Mr. McCaskill, there's your claim that Mr. Poole, this young man, keyed your car.
Yes, Your Honor.
And Mr. Poole says that he did not do that. I assume you're his father?
Yes, ma'am.
You weren't present, is that right?
No.
You're here only because he's a minor.
That's correct.
You can sit down. When do you say that Mr. Poole keyed your car, sir?
February 25th.
Where?
On the driver's door to the driver's
not where on the car.
Oh.
Where was the car?
Oh, it was at the Midlothian High School parking lot.
What time?
3:40.
And where were you?
I was sitting in my truck.
Well, tell me about that, sir.
It was, I had just arrived, and I was waiting for my girlfriend to get out, and he was in football, which they had got out a little early at 3:40, which the bell rings at 3:45 each day. I had seen him walking down the parking lot. It was rainy, and my windows on my truck are dark, and when he was coming down, he walked between the two trucks and pulled his key out of his...
Walk between which two trucks?
My truck and the truck to the left of me. And he walked through, he pulled out his key out of his left pocket and ran it from the driver's door to the driver's bed, and I had got out.
Okay. Did you know Mr. Poole before?
I have known of him. I've never met him.
Had you ever seen him before?
Yes, ma'am.
Where had you seen him before?
I had seen him at school and the Whataburger parking lot in Midlothian.
Immediately prior to the 25th of February, when had you seen him? A week, 2 weeks?
About a week.
Did you have any conversation with him?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so after you saw him key your car, what did you do?
I got out and started yelling at him to get back, and...
To get back where?
To get back over here because of what he had done, in which he had ran to the football fields, or where they play, which is also the baseball field house.
Did you follow him?
Yes, the 2 eyewitnesses that had seen him were in a 1984 Chevrolet Suburban, in which I hopped in with them and we drove down there.
You have a police report?
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to see it, please. Did you file the police report on that day, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When was the next time you saw Mr. Poole?
He had ran into the coach's office saying that I was threatening to beat him up, and which he came out running, apologizing that he accidentally did it with his bag and that he would pay for all costs, and he was sorry. And
who did he say this in front of?
Well, the principals had just arrived down there, and the 2 coaches that were in the coach's office, because they had taken them into his office while I was outside because I was pretty steamed up.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Over here on the map where he was walking between the 2 cars, one of the kids slammed the door open on his chest, and that's why he was...
Not this person.
No, we're not saying that he did it.
But sit down.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 17-year-old Matt McCaskill says classmate 16-year-old Anthony Poole keyed his truck. Anthony is denying the charge.
Do you have any other school reports?
No, I don't, but I have pictures and estimates.
I'll take a look at the pictures. Is this your truck?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you buy it with your own money?
Yes, ma'am.
How long do you have it?
I just had got it probably 2 weeks prior to the incident.
Is this your first car?
No, it was my second one. My mom had bought my first one, and I told her that she could have it back, and so...
So this is the first one you bought for yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Poole, now I'll hear you.
I walked out of the football field house. Before then, there was an incident at Whataburger. One of my friends told me some guys were making racial slurs about my girlfriend. One of the guys that he mentioned his name that I knew was in football. I said something to him. I asked them if they had something to say it to me. You don't say it to her. That's disrespectful. The next day, 2 guys were waiting outside the football field house. They're asking me to come over to the car, saying, "I bet you won't say something."
Look at me, sir. Don't look all over the place.
Yes, ma'am. They're asking me to come over to the car and say something to them.
Who was asking you to go over to what car?
I've never seen them before, or the car.
Was it Mr. McCaskill's car?
No, ma'am.
I don't know. I'm not following your story. Go ahead. You can't. Somebody wanted you to say something to somebody. Come on.
Oh.
Did you key his car?
No, ma'am.
No. When he was chasing you, why were you running away?
Because of the 2 people before him. They followed me in the parking lot.
When you got into the coach's office, did you say, "I'll pay for the damage"? When you, just listen to me carefully, when you got into the coach's office,
yes, ma'am,
did you say, "I'll pay for the damage"?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you tell your father that you said, "I'll pay for the damage"?
Yes, ma'am.
When did you tell your father that you said you would pay for the damage?
That night. But I said that I'd pay for it if my backpack left a scratch. He said on the statement that he heard me run by his car and a scratching sound. And I said, there's metal straps on my backpack. I said, maybe my backpack might have caused the scratching sound. Whenever I saw the king mark, that wasn't from a backpack.
Mr. Poole.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you know that if something doesn't make sense, it's usually not true, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
And there are certain things that are common sense. Let me tell you what they are.
Yes, ma'am.
If a 17-year-old spends his own money that he's worked for to buy a truck or a car, that's usually their prized possession. And if somebody damages that car, what they want to do is have the person who purposely damaged that car be held responsible. You want to say something,
yes,
sir?
Yes, please.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Stand up when you're talking.
Okay. Excuse me, ma'am. The only thing that I witnessed physically was the red whelps on my son's chest from the incident with the, over here on the map where he was walking between the 2 cars, one of the kids slammed the door open on his chest, and that's why he was...
Not this person.
We're not saying that he did it.
He did nothing.
No.
Do you understand, Mr. Poole, what I just said?
Yes, I do.
A 17-year-old doesn't blame somebody else.
Unless
destroying their property, their car.
Right.
Unless it's the person who did it. Unless there is an overriding reason for them to do that.
Or unless he wants a new paint job.
Why would he blame your son? And why would your son say, I'll pay for the damage? What he did was, he caused the damage to the truck, and then he said, maybe it was an accident. Maybe my backpack, that's the story he's telling now, maybe my backpack, as I was walking by, hit the truck and scratched it. So all those things, Mr. Poole, are too serendipitous. The fact that he was there at the time that the truck was scratched. The fact that he witnessed the truck being scratched. The fact that he acknowledged after a chase that, well, maybe it was just, maybe I scratched it, but if I did, it was just by accident. Do you understand? He doesn't say he wasn't there, and he doesn't say he didn't scratch it. He said, if I scratched it, it was an accident. Are you following me?
Yes.
Good. Sit down. Can I see the estimates, please?
Yes.
Got to pay for the damage that you caused, sir. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,196. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Another 22-year-old business owner, William Joe Schwartfeger, is suing his ex-girlfriend's father, truck driver Warren Day, for a false restraining order. Warren says he was trying to keep William away from his 16-year-old daughter, and he is countersuing for his legal fees.
Quiet to the courtroom, please. Now, this is case number 70 on the calendar in the matter of Schwartfeger versus Day. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ladies, have seats, please.
Schwartfeger?
That's correct.
How old are you, sir?
22.
Bert, I want you to pay careful attention. We're going to go over this scorecard so that you know who the players are in this case.
Gotcha.
Because I have a feeling it's going to be interesting. Who is this young lady?
That is my girlfriend, Sarah Buckley.
What does she have to do with this case?
She is a witness to the harassment, the vandalism to my vehicle, and she's also known the defendant and his daughters for about 5 to 6 years.
How long have you been his girlfriend?
Since November.
So a short-term girlfriend?
Yes.
Mr. Day, these are your two daughters?
That's correct.
Your name is?
Samantha.
How old are you, Samantha?
17.
And your name?
Kathleen.
How old are you, Kathleen?
22.
Kathleen, why don't you stand up next to your dad for a minute? Because we're going to get this whole scenario down here. Kathleen, you used to be his girlfriend, is that right?
Yes.
For how long were you his girlfriend?
Almost 4 years.
You have children with him?
2.
How old are your 2 children?
One just turned 3 and one's about 18 months.
Did you live together for a period of time?
Yeah.
For how long?
About 3 of those 4 years.
And how old were you when you started to live with him?
18.
Now you can sit down.
Thank you.
I may come back to you, but right now you can sit. This is what your lawsuit's about, William. According to you, you were being a good Samaritan. And at some point, you took in Mr. Day's younger daughter.
That's correct.
Into your home because you say she was having some trouble with her dad.
Both parents, Your Honor.
Both parents?
Yes.
Now, at the time that you took her into your house, were you still living with Kathleen?
No, I wasn't.
So Kathleen wasn't living with you anymore with your 2 children. She had left you. You had parted ways.
Right.
But Samantha came to live with you, and at that time, Samantha was 16.
That's right.
Mr. Day didn't like that.
Not at all, ma'am.
You didn't like what happened with your first daughter,
That's correct.
and you for sure didn't like what happened with your second daughter.
That's very correct.
So what did you do, Mr. Day?
Well, Mr. Shortfigure hit Samantha in the mouth.
After she was living with him?
Yes.
Okay, let's stop there for a moment. What date did your daughter leave your home?
April 13th.
Of 2003?
Yes. It wasn't my home. She was still with her mother at that time.
You and her mother are separated?
Yes.
In any event, this is what your lawsuit is about, William. Your lawsuit says that Mr. Day filed false charges against you for child endangerment, protective orders, causing you to have to hire an attorney, legal fees, and everything that he said about you was false, and you want to be compensated to the tune of $1,954.
That's correct.
Mr. Day, just for good measure, says, well, he wants some money too because you caused him to lose work and attorney's fees because he had to hire an attorney in order to get certain orders reinstated. He wants some money. I think most of what he wants is satisfaction.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So, William, tell me about when Kathleen left your house with your 2 children.
We were living together until December of 2002, I believe.
And how old were your children at that point?
The one was 3 months, and the other one was a little over 2 years old. Or, I'm sorry, she had not turned 2 yet.
And why did she leave?
We were having problems in our relationship. We've had an on and off relationship for the last 4.5 to 5 years, so...
It was during the odd periods that you had these children?
Yeah.
Was it an amicable breakup?
Pretty much.
And you continue to see the children?
Yes, on a regular basis.
And you continue to support the children?
That's right. I pay child support every week.
For both children?
That's right.
Okay. And where did Kathleen go when she left?
Actually, she stayed in the apartment that we shared.
And you left?
That's right.
So far, is that correct, Kathleen?
No.
Well, why don't you come up here and tell me what happened? Because this is all very important as far as Mr. Day's state of mind when he filed his complaints. When did you and William separate?
December of 2002.
Under what circumstances?
He was sleeping with my sister.
And how did you find that out, Kathleen?
I found notes.
Did you keep the notes?
My mom has them right now.
You get along with your mother?
Yeah.
Should have brought the notes to court.
I know, she won't give them to me. She said it's an embarrassment to our children.
What did the notes say? First of all, who wrote the notes?
He did.
Remember what they said?
It said Samantha down the side. It said sexy, amazing, mind-blowing, awesome, naughty, terrific, hot, and a dream come true.
Did you confront William with the note?
Yes.
What did he say?
He said they wrote it as a joke, together.
And when was that?
About 2 weeks before Christmas, December 2002.
You remember that conversation, William?
Yes, I do.
So you told Kathleen, the mother of your 2 children, that the note that you wrote that talked about sexy, naughty, etc., with regard to her sister, her 16-year-old sister, were just joking around.
Well, I write a lot of poetry. In the
Joking around.
Yeah.
That's what you told her.
Yeah, I said we wrote it together. Yes.
Oh. Shh, please. You left.
I left for the day, but I stayed in the apartment. I asked him to leave.
And did he leave?
He left after a few days.
And that was in December?
That's correct.
When did Samantha come to live with you, sir?
In April of 2003.
And where were you living at the time?
I just got an apartment, and I had an extra bedroom, so I figured, you know.
How did Samantha know that you had an extra bedroom?
Well, we stayed in contact. Kathleen and I weren't talking at the time, so I used Samantha as a mediator to, you know, see my children and to make sure that they were doing okay.
You said you saw your children regularly, so what do you mean you needed a mediator?
Well, at first, the visitation wasn't every weekend like it is now. Like I said, Kathleen and I weren't on speaking terms at that time.
You weren't on speaking terms because she believed that you were having intimate relations with a 16-year-old sister. That a fair statement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You made 2 babies with one of his children, and then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister. The 2 sisters, you know, like you live in Utah.
And later today,
you were together. You went on vacations together. You slept together, intimately involved with each other for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
Now tell me what Mr. Day did with regard to his 16-year-old daughter moving in with you.
Nothing at first. Samantha and Mr. Day weren't on speaking terms when it first happened.
She was living with her mother.
That's right, and she was having problems with her mother. She was, you know, living in and out of her friend's house, you know, running away from her house, not going to school, stuff like that.
Between December and April, did you see Samantha?
We met up a couple times.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
How many times would you estimate you saw Samantha?
About once a week, maybe.
Could it have been twice a week?
It wasn't like everyday basis that she was over at where I was at, but...
I didn't say every day, William. You said once a week, and what I said to you is, could it have been twice a week?
Yeah, it might have been a couple weeks that she came over more than once, yes.
And when she would come over, would she stay for an hour or two?
She'd stay for a couple hours.
And what would you do when she came over?
We'd hang out with the kids, talk about when the next time I get to see them, you know, where we were going to meet to get the kids and everything else, so...
When did Mr. Day file the first of his protective orders?
In July.
You have a copy of it?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
This paper is also the ruling after the
Just
case.
a second. So he filed a protective order indicating that in July you hit Samantha in the mouth.
That's right.
July 2003, Samantha. Were you living with William at the time?
Yes.
Did he hit you in the mouth?
Yes.
Under what circumstances?
I came home and him and his friends had been drinking and we got into an argument. At that time, we went into the bedroom. He took me into the bedroom. His friends stayed in the other room and one thing led to another. He actually picked me up, threw me into the table, and that's how I busted my lip open.
So he didn't hit you in the mouth. He picked you up and threw you into
Yes.
a table, which caused you to hurt your lip. And what did you do in July when he did that to you?
Well, we kept fighting. He actually left. I called my friends to come get me because he took my keys and threw them in the dumpster. And he came back and he was being very rude to my friends, and then I left. And then 2 days later, I think, is when they actually filed the protection order.
Where were you living at the time?
I was living with Joe, but I was staying with my friend Stephanie after we got in an argument.
So you were living with him?
Yes.
What kind of an apartment did he have?
It was a 2-bedroom apartment.
Who else lived there?
Just me and him.
Did you have your own bedroom?
No.
Did you share the bedroom with him?
Yes.
For how long?
Ever since we moved in. We actually got the apartment together. He didn't have it when we were together.
You went to court in August of 2003. Do you remember going to court in August of 2003? Yes. Did the judge ask you any questions?
Yes.
Why did you lie to the judge?
Because I thought that I was in love and I was scared. He told me what to say and I said what he said to say.
Had you gone back to him at the time?
We were on a restraining order, so we couldn't see each other, but yeah, we were still together.
Were you speaking to him?
Not during the protection order.
Did you tell your father that you were going to not tell the truth when the judge asked you questions?
Yes.
What did he say?
Not much. He told me I better tell the truth.
Is that right, sir?
That is correct, ma'am.
When your 16-year-old daughter got to court, she didn't tell the truth. Is that right?
That's correct.
And this, William, is what you're really suing over, this case that was dismissed.
Yeah, that's part of the lawsuit, yes.
Tell me what the other part is.
In February, he filed another protective order against me. Samantha had moved out in late October, and I didn't understand why he was...
So she came back to you after this original protective order, and she moved out again in late October?
That's right. She moved back into my house probably about a month after the case, and then she quit her job, stopped going to school, and those were, I told her if she was going to live with me, she had to keep her job, go to school. And then later on, my car got vandalized.
Who do you think vandalized your car, sir?
Samantha. We do have audio tapes that were gone over by the county attorney.
Don't tell me what audio tapes were gone over by anybody else, sir. That's hearsay.
Okay.
Do you have any witness to Samantha vandalizing your car?
Samantha's older sister, Kathleen, she was the one that actually told me that it was Samantha that vandalized my car.
No.
What did you say to him?
I said it wasn't my brother, and it wasn't my sister.
Well, I don't know what
There's a
you
lot of
said.
people that hate you, so...
Yeah. I can think of 3 right there. Maybe 4. William, I'm going to tell you a word that you probably don't know. Interestingly enough, Officer Byrd knows this word, because when I say the word, he's going to understand, as will a lot of other people, because I'm going to explain the word to you. The word, William, is chutzpah. Do you know what chutzpah means, Byrd?
Sure.
Chutzpah means nerve. You got a lot of nerve to put on a suit and tie, bring your girlfriend into a court to sue this man after you made 2 babies with one of his children irresponsibly. Now, you're only partially responsible for that, but you're half responsible for that. And then his daughter finds out that you're messing around with her 16-year-old sister. And she leaves you. Or you leave. She tells you to leave. And then you invite her 16-year-old sister to move into your house, the 2 sisters, like you live in Utah. And then you have the chutzpah to sue him as a parent for getting angry with you because his daughter tells him, not only am I sleeping with him, but he picked me up, he got angry when he was drinking, threw me against the table, and split my lip.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. William Joe Schwartfager says his ex-girlfriend's father, Warren Day, owes for attorney fees and harassment. Warren says after William broke up with Kathleen, he had an affair with her 16-year-old sister.
You have a daughter, sir?
Yes, I got 2
All
daughters.
right. You have 2 daughters?
3.
Three?
Yes.
Who's the third?
My oldest daughter, she's 7, but she's not by the day.
And how old are you, 22?
That's right.
You better get a lock for it.
That's already been fixed, Your Honor.
William, I don't want to look at you for another second. Your case is dismissed. Mr. Day, have you gotten the satisfaction that you wanted?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need a counterclaim, do you?
No, I don't really know.
Very good. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It's been hard. It's been hard for me not to do something else besides go to court on it. It really has.
I was just trying to get the attorney bills that Mr. Day has racked up on my behalf, cleared up.
This man has been like a dingleberry on my butt.
It didn't destroy any credibility. It's another day.
He doesn't think about other people's feelings, how he hurt me, how he hurt her, and how he's probably going to hurt Sarah, too.
She was like a little sister to me the whole time.
You could talk the panties off a nun.
The girl that's with him right now, Sarah Buckley,
Is my best friend.
and used to live in my house as my third, adopted daughter.
So he's on the third one now.
Yeah.
We're actually a lot closer than we were, and we just really hate him now.
Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah, this is her freebie. If she does it again, then it's done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Nunez versus Channing. Step forward.
Cell phone salesman Ruben Nunez is suing his ex-girlfriend, 25-year-old medical technician Tamara Channing, for crashing his SUV.
How old are you, Mr. Nunez?
32.
What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm in sales.
How long have you been working in sales?
10 years, but I've been with my current company for 7.
You have family?
Yes, I do.
What kind of family do you have?
I am a single parent of a little boy and a little girl.
They live with you?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so you're busy.
I'm currently busy. Yes, I'm always
so
busy.
you have a full-time job?
Yes.
And you take care of 2 kids?
Yes.
The reason I'm asking you these questions, sir, is I'm wondering why you're here. Because your complaint says that 2 years ago you were dating the defendant. She asked if she could borrow your car. She borrowed your car 2 years ago and had an accident. So my question is to myself, do you have nothing else to do in your life? In the 2 years that passed between the crashing of your truck that she had borrowed and now, why didn't you pursue your claim?
Well, Your Honor, she was unemployed, for one. She was going to school, and she just graduated currently in November of 2003.
Yeah?
And she barely got a full-time in February of this year.
Okay. Now, Miss Channing, you borrowed his truck. You had been driving it for a while. You crashed. You had an accident. The accident was your fault. There was some damage to the other car. The other car driver was paid with money that he initially wrote out, but you paid him back that money. That she paid you back, right?
Yes.
This money you said she didn't pay you back. That was to fix the truck. Now, this was in December of 2002
Right.
that you crashed the car. You weren't living together, were you?
No, we weren't.
But you were dating.
Right.
Now, after December of 2002, did you continue to date?
Yes.
Was your dating relationship a heavy dating relationship?
Yes,
were
it
you heavily
was.
involved?
Yes, we were. We were boyfriend and girlfriend.
Were you intimately involved?
Yes.
And when did that relationship end?
It ended in January of this year.
So between December of 2002 and January of 2004, you were together. You went on vacations together.
Right.
You slept together.
Right.
Intimately involved with each other
Right.
for all that time.
Right.
Get a life, sir. Get a life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Listen to me. If somebody owes you money, you pursue that claim immediately. If the relationship hadn't terminated in 2004, you wouldn't be here today. Is that right?
Incorrect.
No, you would not be here today. If the relationship proceeded and you married the defendant, which I assume was your intention and her intention, if you were boyfriend and girlfriend, that it was going to go into a formalized relationship. And if that had happened, we wouldn't be here today. And the only reason you're here today, sir, is because you're annoyed with her, relationship's over. You say, now I want the money from 2 years ago when you had an accident with my car and it cost me $900 to fix it. Get a life, Mr. Nunez. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Xin chào tất cả các bạn đã quay trở lại với kênh của cô. Và hôm nay làm video này thì cô sẽ hướng dẫn cho tất cả các bạn chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau viết chữ thảm cỏ. Bây giờ cô trò mình sẽ cùng nhau đi viết nhé. Bây giờ thì cô trò chúng ta cùng viết chữ thảm cỏ. Chữ thảm có chữ tơ, vì vậy chữ tơ đứng đầu câu cô sẽ viết chữ tơ in hoa. Chữ tơ in hoa cô viết cao 5 ô ly, rộng 4 ô ly. Bây giờ thì cô trò chúng ta sẽ cùng nhau viết chữ thảm cỏ nhé. Chữ hơ cao 5 ô ly, rộng 1,5 ô ly. Chữ A cao 2 ô ly, rộng 1,5 ô ly. Chữ M, các nét của chữ M rộng 1,5 ô ly, cao 2 ô ly. Chữ cõ, chữ cơ rộng 1,5 ô ly, cao 2 ô ly. Chữ O cao 2 ô ly và rộng 1,5 ô ly. Và đây là chữ thảm cỏ mà cô vừa viết và cũng như là cô đã vừa hướng dẫn cho tất cả các bạn chúng ta viết. Và đây là chữ thảm cỏ mà cô vừa hướng dẫn xong cho tất cả các bạn chúng ta viết. Và video cô hướng dẫn viết thì rất là chi tiết về độ cao và độ rộng của từng chữ. Các bạn hãy theo dõi video và các video của cô sau thì cô sẽ hướng dẫn thêm rất là nhiều từ nữa nhé.